get to him. He'll never have a chance.
Good top tower. Well, let's just say it's fire's fortified, I see. Radiant forts have been fortified.
Is the debate gonna start at
Middle tower
in like
is formed.
4 minutes or so?
It looks like it is. I'm starting up OBS right now.
I'm gonna refill my drink then. It might take me a little bit, so if they start introducing me and I'm still muted, my bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a. I'm going last. So I'm gonna go take a dab.
Where are you taking it to?
To the dome.
Oh, okay. All right, nice, nice. Fuck!
Should we hurry?
Yeah, you're good. Get your fat ass out of here.
I'm not ready. Kickback style. On the dusty black, something for you. Run and gun. Like sure. Mortimer will get us there.
Invisibility.
Artillery on the move. Defenders. On the shoot.
All right, can we push?
I'll enjoy the ride. Well, here. Almost ready. Let's ride. This way, Mortimer.
Oh my god, what are you running into him for? You got that shit on him.
Middle
I'm
tab.
trying to like get in the mode where I'm like ready to go and agile. My brain's working. I took a nap to help refresh myself. It was nice. I'm good. What's up? I what? Yeah, I wanna get that energy. I want to get that good energy pumping, you know. Come on.
Back in iron. Get along.
You're breaking my balls here, Tootie.
Don't
Tootie.
need roads.
Tone. Hey, Tone. You're busting my balls here.
Run and gun. Artillery on the move. We'll get there. Well, or in hell. By the by.
Right here's the fire.
4x4. Under attack. Let's have a look-see. Taking tracks.
Shit, who let me rush? You guys just didn't want to fucking do it. Yeah, here comes
Enjoy
Reese.
the ride.
Be very useful. Yeah, don't back your teammate up, please. Just run around.
Making
Yeah, dude, this Zeus is gonna lose us this game. Yeah, he had Satanic up and he fucking ran away. I know.
Quite a spree.
You can't yell like that.
I already told Michael if I bother him, let me know and I'll stop playing it down and warn him what I'm doing.
Radiant's courier's been slain.
You're not gonna support me? You're not gonna stay up and support me in my time of struggle and need?
All your preparation and source of good energy, you don't know me.
You're gonna abandon me?
Are you still playing?
What's that? Yeah, I'm at 63 minutes on this fucking game. It's crazy.
Leave.
I can't just leave. Oh. I don't even know. It's a 3v3. Dude, I got 4 people watching me that can hear you complaining.
Okay.
I don't even know who
Poppycock.
we're against. Doesn't matter.
Moving.
All will fall victim. Anyone who stands in my way will fall victim. Women, children, none shall be spared my wrath.
Make the back way.
Dominating.
Guys, I got a debate panel starting in like 1 minute. We gotta finish this. I have to go talk about Israel. It's supposed to start any minute now. It's on 11. Huh? No, I was telling my team they need to hurry the fuck up. So they don't, you don't have any obligation to listen, you know? I'm just telling them to fucking...
Hey, the enemy's top barracks have fallen.
Let's fucking win this.
Top barracks might be trouble if you wish. Well done.
I got some.
Hey, Dizzy, I'm Tyler.
Radiant structures, they're fortified. Dire structures are fortified. The enemy's in town. Yeah.
Break out the
Murder going on here. Quantity of murder will sick innocent lives take.
when they call him a big eye.
Fire came out.
Woo, we won. 64-minute game. Alright, let's pull up. Holla. Get everything working. Oh my, that was rude. Put the nice flowers here. Look at that. Would you look at that? Get out of there, Shippy. Alright, Tootie, it's time. Let's get fucking going. We're going on a bigger channel. Don't know any of the fucking people. Let's show out. About to show out.
I'm going to sleep. So when did you go up and take?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, you go up and take both, and you can't even stand there.
I didn't know the two were mutually exclusive. I can't do both. Alright, when's this shit starting? We're fucking ready. I got my notes. My notes are my notes. Oh, it needs to be up there. Alright. Why are you being so needy today? Hello. Oh, Snippy, that's my ear hole.
Doomp. Of course, the negative side is on time. Batum. Yeah, right? Isn't that what a weird coincidence? We're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're also, hey, this is actually perfect. God, I hope it stays kind of like this, although it's probably not going to. I'm going
Hey,
to have to
Tyler.
try
How's it going, bro?
I'm going to have to try to keep track of everybody's order here. So, with that said, for those of you late arrivals, who's that? Is that? Oh, that's Ancom. Welcome
Yes,
in,
it is.
Ancom. Good,
Hello,
good,
hello.
good to see you. All right. So, I just did a little bit of a cold opening just to let everybody know what we're up against here. It looks like we now have everybody present. I'm going to go through. I know I sent a way complicated explanation of how the format's going to go. I feel like once it starts happening, it's going to be pretty simple. As you guys can see, we have a what do you call it? We have a timer. Yeah, we have a timer above my head in the Discord channel, so you guys should be able to see it pretty easily. The way this is going to go is it's going to go back and forth, team 1, team 2. I'm not sure which team is going to be which just yet. We will sort all that out soon.
I'll do my best.
But who we got there? That's Tyler. Okay, cool. So we are going to go back and forth with the first person getting a 3-minute opening. Then the next person from the other team is going to get a 2-minute cross-examine where they are allowed to ask whatever questions or clarifying points they need to from the previous person's opening. Then they're going to have their 3-minute opening. Then the next person on the opposite side is going to get their 2 minutes cross exam, then 3 minutes opening. And ultimately, this is going to be a decision made by each of the teams insofar as which order they go in. So hopefully y'all had enough time in the other Discords to at least get that sorted out, y'all's order of performance. Perfect. So, with that said, after the 3-2-3-2, which should work out to be about 30 minutes if I did my math right, then we're going to have what is currently expected to be a 45-minute open session of panel debate where you guys are free to go back and forth as you see fit. Our two judges, Lethe and Lonzo, are going to be responsible for deciding when enough is enough. So, in other words, at the 30-minute mark, I'm going to ask them if they want to go all the way to the 45 minutes. We're going to keep going if they say yes. If they say they've heard enough and they think that that we're not actually covering any new ground or that it's just become a shouting match or it's no longer productive, they will have the power to cut it off at the 30 minutes. Or if at 45 minutes they decide we still need to hear more and the conversation is going well and they want some more, then we can actually push it all the way to an hour as necessary. After that, each member in the same order we began with is going to get up to 5 minutes to do their own personal closing arguments. And then after that, we're going to kick it to the judges. We have two judges who are going to each decide, first of all, which team won. And then second of all, who the MVP of the entire conversation was, who was the most articulate, who presented their case the best, who brought the receipts, etc., whatever their personal belief is. And then for the actual for the third vote on the judges for the actual team that wins, we're also going to poll the audiences, and we're going to get a group. Now, I'm not absolutely certain how. No, that is not Boba Beach. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm able to poll all of the chats, or if people are going to have to come into my chat to do the voting. I'm not sure. I don't love that, but that's okay. So. Either way, does anybody have any questions before we kick this off about what I just went over or what we're expecting? I do one last thing. I do want to remind everybody. This is a debate, which is to say that we are trying to do this as formal as possible. We are judging based on the points made and the rhetoric and articulation of the interlocutors, not necessarily whether we agree with or not their actual beliefs or their positions. There actually could very well be some people in this who are debating a position they don't necessarily hold. They are doing this more as an intellectual exercise to try to. There you go. So I ask a question again. Is there any other questions from anybody before we get this party started? No? Beautiful. Well, then in that case, just so that I can go ahead and get this down, Team AF, or actually let's start with Team Neg because they had the most time. On the negative side, we have, who's going to go first? That is Miko asking, coin a Game Boy and Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler's first.
No,
Game
no.
Boy second.
Sorry, I raised my hand.
Tyler. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking it up. Tyler, then Koina, then Game Boy, or Koina's closing.
I'm closing.
Okay, cool. So Tyler, then Game Boy, and then Coin, and then on the AF side, did you guys get the chance? That's going to be Casey and Ancom and Tokahanis. Did you guys get the chance to discuss an order yet?
Yeah, I floated the
Believe
idea
it-
that
Oh,
we
go
would, we would try to we're going to come at it dynamically if it's
Okay.
allowed.
Meaning?
Meaning, if one of us feels like they have a good counter to the first person who speaks, then we're going to let that person go or whatever.
Oh, I see. So you guys are going to decide your order as it's unfolding. I see. Okay.
That was the idea.
That's fine. Yep. Nope. I'm all right with that as long as you understand that you're going to hold to that order once we are done. So, in that case, I'm going to need. I should have brought a fucking coin out here. And I guess
I'm
I
here.
could ask Coin, but yeah, I was about to say, but that would be improper. Lethe or Lonzo, do either one of y'all by any chance have a coin handy?
I do.
Well, I tell you what.
Casey's always trying to break the rules.
There you go. Beautiful. So, you know what? I'm gonna say, if you would be so kind, Lonzo, as to flip it, I'm gonna say heads is gonna be the affirmative, tails is gonna be the negative. Who's going first?
Heads.
Heads, that's going to be the affirmative. All right. Well, then in that case, Casey, you guys are going to be opening since you spoke first. I'm going to look to you as the impromptu team leader. Who do you think is going to go first for y'all's cold open?
Unless Tokahanis, you got something awesome. Is Tokahanis is there's we have a present.
Toka and Game Boy seem to both be muted. Oh, there she is.
Can I see?
Sorry, I'm still setting up here, so just give me a few.
Absolutely.
No
Sorry
worries. No. How about how long do you think you need, ma'am?
Like 5 minutes, maybe?
5 minutes.
Not
Okay,
even?
that's not a problem. Then in that case, we can definitely get started, and I'm sure you'll be able to listen to what's going on as we're doing this.
Perfect.
All right. So, in that case, we're going to start with Casey.
Okay. Did you
And-
quick with the prompt you lead me in with?
And
that,
that I
I'll
was
go
just
ahead.
about yes, sir. I was going to open it with reiterating the prompt. The prompt is: are we currently witnessing a second Holocaust? Now, with that said, let me go ahead and, if you are ready, Casey, on time.
All right. It's definitely a high bar there to set, but I do feel very strongly in all of the similar things, and I'm going to start with, and maybe focus entirely on, the most similar incident or thing or historically that I could possibly think of, like the actual like closest thing, which would be the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. So let me go through our history a little here. Here we go. In 1940, about a year after the invasion of Poland, the Nazis established the Warsaw Ghetto, forcing approximately 400,000 Jews into confined, crowded area, occupying and controlling the population from the walls that now surround it. After initial deportations in the summer of 42, the Jews in Warsaw began building bunkers and smuggling in weapons and explosives. There's a quote from the Warsaw Ghetto Museum. It has turned out that the Jews hid themselves in the sewers and in specially furnished bunkers. Initially, we assumed that they were all individual bunkers. However, in the course of the action, it transpired there was an organized system of cellars, bunkers, and passageways throughout each ghetto. Blah blah blah. During this time, Jewish collaborators and those suspected of being spies would be executed. Bombings of cafes around this time are most famously attributed to the nearby Krakow ghetto, including bombings of the cafe, I can't pronounce, theater, I can't pronounce, and most famously Segenera Cafe, where up to 70 Germans, or no, 70 people would die. Not all Germans, though Germans were known to go there. and they decided against bombing the ghetto after the uprising started, but they just started firebombing the houses, house by house. This sort of I mean it is so eerily similar, just forcing a bunch of people into a crowded metropole, and they dig in cellars to defend themselves, and they sneak in weapons, and then their occupiers controlling them from the outside and get tired of them and start raising the place. It's eerily similar. So, 25 Yargle. Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, and history books. It's hard to look. It's actually hard to look up. Like yeah, whatever terrorism or whatever the Jewish resistance, and as well as to some extent the French resistance as well, but we don't.
And time.
Okay.
All right, very good. Now we're going to go ahead and move straight to the 2-minute cross examination. And you said that's going to be Tyler on the negative, who is going to have 2 minutes on the clock. Tyler, go ahead and ask any questions you like of Casey in his position. And the time starts now.
So, in your introduction, you alluded to two major points. One of them was the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. You used this anecdote, and even in your comparison, it wasn't a great one-to-one comparison where the Jews walled off the area. My question to you is what
do you mean the Jews walled off the area?
The Jews walled off themselves and not the area that they were in the Warsaw Ghetto. They were walled off. They were put there and walled off, where in this situation, it's the exact opposite. They took a spot and walled themselves off. But
the people in Gaza walled themselves off? Sorry.
No. Israel walled itself off is the point. My question here is, besides this loose similarity, is that you said it was eerily similar. Is that the only major comparison between the two you can think of? Is the Warsaw Ghetto kind of reminding you of this if you squint your eyes and knows the details?
Hold on. Most of the people in Gaza are there because of the Nakba. They were forced to be there. And then Israel built the walls around Gaza, just treating it like a prison. I mean, these are like eerily similar situations.
There's a wall around Gaza?
There's a fence and people with guns that shoot you when you get too close to it.
They don't have access to the water?
The fishermen can go about a mile and a half out before they get shot.
They didn't have access to the Philadelphia corridor prior to this, right? Or they did?
No, they
did. No. They had access to the Philadelphia corridor. They could go right into Egypt. There were at least 15 terror tunnels discovered afterwards.
No. Anyone in and out of Gaza needs permission from Israel, needs to get the visa from Israel, needs to ask permission from Israel. Anyone in or out for the last 50 years.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because we see Yahya Sinwar's wife actually use a fake passport and exit to Turkey, and Israel was unaware of this.
Yeah, you can sneak in. Yeah,
so I mean, that's necessarily true. People can, absolutely sneak around through giant tunnels, especially when they have 15 tunnels going between Turkey and the southern part of Gaza. That was not under Israel's control until after the war.
That'd be a very
time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move right on to 3 minutes for you, Tyler. Go ahead with your opening when you're ready, sir. I'll start with you, and go.
So the prompt here is that tonight we're asking if this is the second Holocaust, and I think it's a very disingenuous way to summon up in this conflict. So, if the Jews had been firing 4,000 rockets onto Greater Germany and calling for the death of all Germans, then maybe we'd have some sort of comparison here, but it's not even close. We can see the side that's currently the victim of a war because of less materiel is also the aggressors in the situation. The population of Gaza, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, if we subtract the people that have actually left Gaza because they're fleeing the war, the population actually grew of Palestinians based on the birth rate versus the death rate in the country, based off the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers from as late as March 2025. So maybe they have updated since then, but as of right now, they actually had more babies than people killed in the war. Of those include families of Hamas leadership were also escaping through the borders. Israel didn't realize this. They were using fake passports, so we can see that Gaza is not a place that Hamas wants their leadership to be, who are in Qatar, or their family members to be, who have been pushed out to Turkey, Qatar, and other places as well. A lot of the allegations against Israel, usually it's a lie getting around the world before the truth has a chance to lace up its boots. The most recent one being the Witkoff massacre. It took 3 days for Israel to put out drone footage, but the drone footage showed Hamas and other groups inside of Gaza executing Gazans themselves. And we only have an eyewitness testimony from one unnamed person that talked to doctors. Later on, the doctors are quoting this one unnamed person. And that's the only reason that we think that it was actually Israel that did it, despite Israel's drone footage showing the opposite. So generally, a lot of these mistruths come out, and everyone believes them before we even get the chance to get an investigation. So the war was an attack on seven fronts. The difference in this conflict here is Israel is establishing deterrence. Israel's actions with relocating, feeding, and protecting Gazans within Gaza has been showing you that they're actually trying to avoid deaths. They moved 1.4 million people when they went into Rafah. They've been giving 10 million meals a day through the IDF recently. Like, every action they're showing is the exact opposite of what they did to Jews in concentration camps. Not just the work camps, the death camps where they sent people that weren't viable for work. There's nothing like that going on in Israel. So the difference is between this is a war of deterrence after being attacked by 6 fronts that were working in coordination with the 7th front that also attacked them, which was Iran, working in coordination to take down their state. Arabs inside Israel not only live the best life of anywhere in the Middle East, but they also generally side with Israel on things related to foreign policy. They don't think there's also a viable two-state solution with Hamas in power, but the majority of Israel still thinks a two-state solution is the best long-term solution. So there is a free Palestine in their future. They just need to get the people that they elected themselves out in 2005. And Israel is doing that. So I would say the war is not only not a genocide, but just.
And you brought it home on the buzzer. Well done, sir. All right, fantastic. So moving to the other team, back to you guys. Affirmative. Tokahannis, is that going to be you, or is that going to be you, Ancom?
I'm ready to go if they're not.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, well, then in that case, Tokahannis, you're going to have 2 minutes on the clock for cross-examination. And whenever you're ready, let's go.
Ready. Palestine updates, July 31st. At least 27 people have been killed by Israel this morning in Gaza, 10 of whom were killed while waiting for aid. A displaced Palestinian family was killed in an Israeli drone strike on their tent in Deir al-Balal, excuse me for that pronunciation, central Gaza. The victims included a man, a woman, and their 2 children. At least 2 people were killed and others injured in an Israeli strike on a second tent housing
Toka. I'm sorry to pause you, but I'm going to stop for just 1 second and let you, because it sounds to me like you're on your 3-minute open.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is still,
no.
This is your 2-minute cross-ex. I will restart the time because you're going to be able to do that again. Yeah,
no, I was going to say, like, I can't even get through. I was going to say before it's even up, like, I can't even get through all of these updates of how many people were killed.
I apologize. It's your time. Use it as you will. I will continue the clock from where it was. I apologize.
Yeah, please. No. I don't want to take up anyone else's time. I just want to continue where we're at. So this is literally just the beginning. I can't even get through in these 2 minutes. Just the updates since Thursday of how many people have been killed in Palestine. This is a serious existential crisis that we are facing as humanity. And I think we all need to take a good hard look in the mirror regarding this genocide. Straight up.
What's the question?
Is there supposed to be a question?
Yeah, you're supposed to be critiquing my 3 minutes.
Oh, my. So basically what I'm saying is that, you can say anything you want. It's just that there's just so much to go through that we can't even get through it all with all the destruction, all the death and destruction that we see every day that's just in our feed. And there's just so little time and so little people that will listen to even what's going on.
I guess I could just address. So a lot of the problem that they have right now in there, in this conflict, is that Hamas is not a standing army. They wear civilian clothes, they hide among civilian crowds, they use civilian infrastructure, like 1/3 of the homes in Gaza City, most of their power plants, hospitals, to hide behind the civilian population. So if they're using the civilian population as a shield, like look at Rafah City, the only civilians that were hurt or killed when they went into Rafah after relocating 1.4 million people was when they were going after a terrorist. The bomb exploded, shrapnel hit a truck, that truck exploded.
Let me go ahead and stop you. I'm sorry. I thought that you were going to have a pause or take a breath at some point. So once again, Toka, I apologize. I was not clear about how this was formatted. So yeah, that was a 2 minutes for you to cross-examine the last person who spoke. It's not a problem. It's your 2 minutes to use as you wanted. If you wanted to talk the whole thing, that's fine. But you actually do also now get your 3-minute opening. So if you're ready for that as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and go ahead.
Okay, so we do have a couple countries that are interested in helping Palestine, which is interesting to me because I've seen so far the only force that is willing to defend the Palestinian population, the civilian population in Palestine, is Hamas. So we have Sweden calls on EU to suspend trade pact with Israel. The situation in Gaza is absolutely appalling, and Israel is failing to fulfill its most basic obligations and agreements on emergency aid. Ulf Kristersson, the Prime Minister of Sweden. We also have Slovenia has announced it will ban all arms sales to Israel due to the ongoing genocide in Gaza, becoming the first EU member state to take this step. We also have, looking through my notes. Oh my God, I know there's one more. I'm sorry. Oh, Canada intends to recognize the Palestinian state at the United Nations in September. Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced. The Canadian PM told reporters the move depends on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to reforms, including fundamentally overhauling its governance and holding general elections in 2026, in which Hamas would be banned from participating. There's a lot to unpack here, but waiting 2 months only puts Palestinians at even greater risk to fulfill annexation by Israel in both Gaza and the West Bank, which I think is the only option going forward. I'm good.
That's time?
Yeah.
All right, that's time. All right. Well, then in that case, Game Boy, I'm going to go ahead and give you your 2 minutes on the clock to cross-examine Toka.
Hey.
So just so you know, Toka, because again, like I said, I
To
obviously
flip it
did
so
not
that
explain
you
it well
now
enough.
had to
So
take
now Game
the
Boy is
rep
going to
that you
get
had
2 minutes to question you regarding your positions and or statements. Are you ready, Game Boy?
Sorry, can I get a quick rundown who's for and against?
Sure. Sorry. So
my fault.
No worries. So on the neg is going to be Tyler, and Game Boy, and Coin, which is the people who are refuting the position that we are currently witnessing a second Holocaust. On the affirmative is Casey, yourself, and Ancom. So
okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Nope, no worries. Game Boy is. Are you ready for your cross-eggs?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Is my mic good?
Yes, you sound great.
We can't arrange the boxes, can we? And
I wish. God, I wish.
Like,
I wish. I know.
You can click on him to make him bigger. That's about it.
So I can also, but I want everybody's face. So again, I wish. Apparently StreamYard, you can free plug StreamYard, and I'm thinking that I might end up starting to use StreamYard because you can actually you can control who's where, and I can't do that with Discord. It sucks. So.
FYI, Streamlabs also came up with their own competitor to StreamYard. I know a couple of people have switched over just because it's cheaper, so just another thing you might want to look into.
Got it. Appreciate you. All right. So sorry about that. Completely distracted, ADD, and no small part of marijuana. Once again, are you ready, Game Boy? You sound great. Are you good? Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry. Back at it. Toka, go ahead, Game Boy. 2 minutes.
I'm all ears.
You mentioned the destruction happening in Gaza, but the prompt itself mentions the Holocaust specifically. Could you make a comparison to that rather than just mention the atrocities that often come with war?
Sure. So I don't like to make a direct comparison, but if you would like to push that envelope, we can say that Gaza itself is a camp. It's a labor camp. It's a torture camp. It's all the camps put into one, I think. And there's checkpoints to put that into perspective, there's checkpoints. They can't move freely within Gaza. There's no airports. They've bombed the only airport. There's obviously no hospitals anymore since October 7th. But, you know, like there's many things that have restricted movement within Gaza, which makes it an almost a free air prison, I think people have described it as. And I would personally describe it as that as well, seeing as how there's the checkpoints, there's the wall, the border wall, the fence, whatever they put around it there. But yeah, open air concentration camp. So that's what I would describe it as.
But would you say that the difference is we are in a war that was a genocide? If you were engaging in a war, you would want to have the enemy concentrated in one single area, even if that includes civilians, because you can make sure that the terrorists don't become an active threat. Would you say that is how do you respond to that criticism?
I think terrorism would be a threat regardless of whether or not that, there's a threat regardless. So I don't think restricting people who are innocent is going to help your case. I think that's just going to make more terrorism, or people at least resentful of the fact that you're doing it.
All right, and time. All right, then now we're going to go ahead and go give Game Boy his 3 minutes on the clock. Are you ready for that, sir? Do you need a sec?
I'm good.
Good, then we're ready to go and go.
My criticism of the prompt is more focused on the idea that it's a genocide or Holocaust of sorts, rather than the conflict being just or unjust. I would more focus on the fact that we are seeing, while a dominant and overpowering force in Israel over the Gazans, you do not have a genocide of sorts where you could make the argument that it's more closer to a war, which I think is very mutually exclusive. If you have a war, you don't have a genocide. If you have a genocide, you don't have a war. I think many people, and I was more focusing on Casey when I was researching this, focus on the means that Israel is taking whenever they engage in conflict. Whether that be, like Toka said, we're open air prison, or whether that be, they're killing women and children. We can all say this is unjust, but I feel like it's a bigger leap to say this is comparable to the Holocaust, which has an end that it's trying to meet. It has a goal, and that is eliminating people the German government thought was undesirable. I think that the Israeli government, while it may be getting rid of people they find undesirable, it is to reach a bigger purpose, which is to kind of get rid of forces they think are
This panel needs Gibbs
hurting
desperately to give us some fucking energy.
their influence and their
I'll drink some
power
coffee,
within
but
the
fish
Middle
is making
East.
me fall asleep.
I think this is a very important distinction, because we see almost a proxy war with Israel being supported by Western governments trying to maintain influence, and Hamas being supported by Middle Eastern countries in order to maintain influence or even an opposing force against Israel. This is a totally different motivation for Israel to continue engaging in conflict if they hope to try to eliminate people who may be in opposition to their government, rather than just for the sake of being in an ethnic group or geographical area. I think you could say that it could be an invasion of sorts, but that's still an invasion. That's not getting rid of a group of people for the sake of their race or ethnicity. I think it would be far more comparable if it was within Israeli borders that these people were being attacked. But I find it very hard to believe this when we have seen far less examples brought up by everyone who's presented so far of, look at these Palestinians who are being actively attacked within Israeli borders. I hope that the person who's going to follow and criticize what I'm saying can provide those examples.
Well done, sir. Landed it right on the on the money. And that means that we're now going to go over to ANCOM.
Real quick, Game
yes.
Boy, would you agree that a war can turn into a genocide, at least?
So real quick, just so you know, you will get an open forum. I
just didn't
wasn't
wanna
clear,
forget.
but nope, you're good. So that's why we take notes. So yeah, if you wait, hold on to your questions, or you could also
problem.
low key cheat tactic. You could also message the person who's about to cross examine off the record.
I was literally about to suggest that
Yeah,
to
no, I got
Pocahontas.
you.
I'm like,
Again,
DMs are
so-
a thing. Feel
so-
free to shoot me any questions you want to ask.
Exactly. If we were sitting at a table at a debate, somebody would slide a note. So, ANCOM, we're going to go ahead and put the 2 minutes on the clock for you to go ahead and cross-X, refresh, and go ahead, go.
All right. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and start with Pocahontas' question. Do you believe that that a war can turn into a genocide?
I think it's fair to say, but it's not entirely relevant, if it can become a genocide, because we still have an opposition force in the conflict. If we say that Hamas is disbanded and Israel continues to attack Palestinian forces, then that is clearly a genocide. But right now it's so up in the air that I would far side from the Holocaust, which never had some army or terroristic force which we implemented.
I want to push back on that, because the various resistance movements that existed all throughout, not just the Second World War or the Holocaust, but all throughout the entirety of the Third Reich and Nazi rule over Germany and the neighboring countries, there were multiple resistance movements which Hamas could at this point be plausibly claimed to be a resistance movement to Israeli oppression, as they have claimed themselves many times.
Yeah, I would say that is fair, but that would be a response to an existing genocide. That is not evidence of the genocide itself. If we were to say that, it would be more comparable to maybe the Native Americans than it is to the Holocaust, which the resistance groups only really came into form after it was very clear and evident that the Jews were being taken from their homes and businesses.
I mean, I would argue that the Holocaust was formatted after the Native American genocides. The ideas were effectively the same. The Nazis got their ideas from the U.S.
In time. All right, now go ahead and we're going to roll that straight into your 3 minute opening, ANCOM, and go.
All right. So I will go ahead and partially agree with my opposition here, in that whether or not this is a second Holocaust is kind of a bad way to frame it. It's one of those situations where history doesn't repeat itself, but it does frequently rhyme. And it is under that particular idea that I would argue that we are seeing something that would be comparable to the Holocaust, but it would also be comparable to a large number of other major atrocities that we have seen over the last, century or two. The Rwandan genocide, the Native American genocide, we have quite a lot of parallels that we're seeing, and though the specific circumstances may be different because the historical situation is different, we are seeing a lot of the same parallels, in that we have a large power that appears to be trying to exterminate at worst, or at best attempting to forcibly relocate and move a smaller, less powerful group that they consider to be, or at least publicly declare to be, a threat, which is something that pretty much all of these major atrocities tend to claim, is that the group that is being attacked or genocided, depending on how those definitions are placed on these events in retrospect, almost all of them claim that there's some sort of threat. The Nazis claimed that Jews were a threat. American government claimed that Native Americans were a threat. All of them engaged in large amounts of propaganda in order to make the other side seem as if it's a massive threat that needs to be exterminated or at the very least controlled, and they tend to blow the actual risks of this out of proportion. Now, I will grant that yes, Hamas is a major threat to the state of Israel, but if we look at the history going back to even before Hamas was created, this is all a result of what the Arab population in the region considers to be a Nakba, it considers to be a war against their own existence by the Israeli state. So we have to realize that this is a long-standing, very complicated conflict, but right now, the major power, which is Israel, has the greatest amount of leverage in order to exercise their will, as opposed to the opposition being the Palestinians, both of the West Bank and Gaza, who have relatively far less power to do so.
And he landed it. All right. So now it is going to go to Koina for a 2-minute cross-examination. Are you ready, Mr. Koina?
I think so.
All right, and then go.
First off, Ancom, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. So first question, how would you define genocide?
I mean, I would tend to go with the UN definition of genocide, meaning, the attempt to intentionally dispose of all or part of a major ethnic or regional or religious group. I don't have the exact wording in front of me, obviously, but...
No, I would agree with you. Do you think Israel has an actual governmental policy to attempt to dispose of a part of the Palestinian group?
I don't know if the entire Israeli government has a policy. They certainly claim that they do not. However, claims versus actual intent is a very, very difficult thing to judge based on the actions that we have seen over the past year and a half, especially, but over a much longer period. It does seem that there is an attempt to reduce and remove the ability of the Palestinian people to, to be able to run their own lives, to govern themselves, and generally to have the same level of freedoms that the current Israeli population has.
Okay, you said a lot there.
Yes, I did.
What was my original question? Can you repeat my original question?
Yes, you asked if the Israeli government has a policy that would qualify as genocide. I believe that was the effect of your question.
No,
yep.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think Germany during the Holocaust had the same kind of would have the same kind of policy of hiding it, or were they more open about it and upfront about their intentions?
As we just ran out of time,
I was about to say that's time, but I'll go ahead and give you 10 seconds to answer the question.
Yeah, I think Germany at the time, we have the benefit of hindsight in this case, but Germany at the time, I believe, had a similar policy where they were trying to hide it, at least to some extent. And we simply know more now than we did in the 30s and 40s.
And time. Perfect. All right. So 3 minutes is going to be on the clock for you, Koina. Go ahead and our final close. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm just going to pretty much highlight that the Holocaust just stands apart from it just because it's so much worse. You can see so many documents that they just flat out kept almost to brag about the amount of people that they killed. I think in total, the estimation for the entire Palestinian conflict, even though it's high and, unreasonable in my eyes, the first document I can bring up for the Holocaust is roughly the same total of the total amount of Palestinians estimated to be killed in a total of 4 months by one squad of the Unstramgrappen group, or however you pronounce it. So I think
we also have to think about the ratio.
So I think having the same notion of these are similar and equal events is just diminishing from how totally bad the Holocaust actual was. I do agree with Amcom. I think the prompt is a little bit exaggerated because I don't know how you can compare the current actual intent to the Israeli government to the intent of the German or Nazi party during the Holocaust. It's just not the same whatsoever. I think if you would look at it like in terms of how to like differentiate the things, I think obviously the Holocaust went above and beyond any kind of definitions that were even drawn after World War II and the the Genocide Convention. I think if you had to put some kind of terms on it, I would say like some level of an industrialization of murder. Somehow using like cutting edge technology. You're not killing enough people. You actually need to make inventions to do it more. You need to create vans and chambers to do this, more efficiently. And it has to be, state sponsored and systematic. You might argue that Israel has the state sponsored and systematic parts, but I just feel there's the intent of the genocide is not there to be seen. And I think pretty much Tyler and Game Boy covered everything else I would say.
Oh, that's it? All right.
Yeah.
Well, then in that case, we're going to put, stop it. Where are you stop? Why aren't you stopped? There you go. Okay. We're going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock. Remember, now, Casey, you're going to do the cross-X on Coinus since you were the one who went first. Are you ready for that?
You're muted, by the way, Casey.
Fuck my life. Thank you. My first question is, what has Israel been doing broadly in the West Bank for the last 50, 60 years? Can you summarize it in like 2 sentences?
What part do you want to know about? Like what time frame? Just in general?
Okay,
it's a lot to
put
in 2 sentences.
Just in general, what have they been doing there?
What, you want to talk about settlements or partition plans?
Yeah, we've been partitioning. That's good. We've been settling. We've been ethnically cleansing.
Who controlled who controlled the West Bank before Israel?
Jordan briefly did. And the fuck? I'm asking the questions here, bitch. Israel has one clear goal, and it's obvious because they've settled 250,000 settlers in the last 25 years in the West Bank, as Palestinian villages, get ethnically cleansed and they get moved into tighter and tighter spaces. Like it is obvious that there is a goal. To say that there's no intent or there's no that Israel has no intent in Gaza. Their intent is to take Gaza because they think it's theirs. Their intent is expressed by many of their leaders can go down like 50 different quotes. So like you pick your leader or whatever. Like the intent is to get Gazans out of Gaza. That is the intent, and what they're willing to do to get that is clear to me. To say they don't have an intent. Is it not clear to you that their intent is to take this land for themselves? Because that's what they've been doing for 75 years?
Would you say that the settlements in Gaza, in the West Bank, even if I were to grant anything or everything that you said, is that equal to the events of the Holocaust?
I was disputing your 1.2. If you want to answer that question,
is this the second Holocaust?
So that's actually the. So real quick, Casey, hold on, Casey.
And we may not know now because we don't.
Hold on, you're gonna get to say your thing. You're gonna get to say your thing. I promise.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, you're good. So we're actually done with the cross-X, and we're done with the first the opening portion of the debate. So real quick though, I am going to do something I didn't warn you guys about. I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock for each of the 2 judges. If they would like to use it, they're going to be able to ask a question or any questions they want of specific debaters. I've already ran it off of them to make sure that they were okay with this. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick it to you first, Lethe. And 3 minutes is on the clock. When you're ready, go ahead.
Hey, Tyler, how's it going? I would like to see if your understanding of the material conditions between the Palestinians in this time versus what was going on with the Jewish people that were in Germany at the time. Like, were they walled off or were they not walled off? And why?
Yeah, what was expressed was the Germans walled off the people in Warsaw. They were isolating them, saying they were a public health threat, that they were unclean. And in this other instance in Israel walled itself off to protect its barriers. That's the difference.
Okay, don't see how it's entirely disanalogous, but I thank you for answering that. So also to ANCOM,
Yes.
the clear definition of when a war can be, if a war can become a genocide, is this essentially what you're saying has begun to happen, or is it just a consequence?
That was a direct response to Game Boy's claim that this is a war and not a genocide. So the question was really just to suss out whether he believed a war can become a genocide. Whether or not, like, I personally think that it can be classified as both, because different people, reasonable minds can disagree about what any particular set of material circumstances classify as what, based on, a number of different factors. So I think that this could be classified both as a war and as a genocide at the moment, and it's really, up to kind of which side you find more persuasive in their arguments to determine which one you believe it is. Not you directly, although yes, you are a judge here, but you in the general sense.
And I have one very last question to Koina. You were saying the Holocaust is just worse. Is it based on the numbers? Is it based on the actions? What exactly makes one worse than the other? Like, I would say a genocide in any aspect is bad. There is no need to weigh out which is worse.
I would say like I said, the two unique ways I would say it's worse is the industrialization of the murder, the fact that they, had reports on the beginning and came to a realization that they weren't killing people fast enough. So they had to, have ingenuity behind the efficiency of killing people. And then two, it's completely state sponsored, and the intent is, signaled from the state, the leading authority in the party. There was no opposition. The opposition was clearly cut down, public or in government. Like the parallels just, you can draw the faintest line between two events, but these just are not similar in the fact that you could say that we are witnessing the second version of the Holocaust.
Great, thank you. I'm good.
Thank you, Lethe, and perfectly on time too. Now we're going to go ahead and put that 3 minutes back on the clock. Lonzo, are you ready? Do you have some questions for the debaters?
Yes, and I'm going to do this the Bernie Sanders way, so I need y'all to be on timer here with this.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the timer. Go ahead when you're ready.
All right, so starting off with average debater, or Tyler, I just need you to give me a yes or no on this question here. Okay, so yes or no, do you believe that population growth resembles, that if a population is growing during the time of what is being claimed to be a genocide, that it is not a genocide?
Yes.
Okay. And Ancon, is that how I say your name?
Ancon.
Okay, what was your point earlier about, it was the, oh man, okay, I wish I could remember. It's a lot of people that had points that were spoken earlier, that's hard for me to remember. But your point earlier about this not being about this being a Holocaust due to the, were you the one who said that they were being funneled in? Or was that, I'm probably gonna have to go to the next because I can't remember the point that you made against Game Boy earlier. Sorry.
You can just say who was it that who said this?
No, I was trying to remember the point that he made exactly because I can't remember that. But Casey, do you believe that people in Gaza are being funneled into what is considered a concentration camp that is intended to kill the Palestinian people?
I think it's intended to force the Gazans to leave Gaza.
It's just
but
okay.
They're killing, like they'll take either or. I think.
All right, it's supposed to be yes or no, but that's okay. Pocahontas, is this how you say this? All right, do you believe that the Israeli forces that have went into Palestine, that have went into Gaza specific, that they are intentionally there purely for the extermination of the Palestinian people and not for any peacemaking or creation of policing in the area?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Game Boy, I have a question. Do you consider the funneling of the Palestinian people into the Gaza Strip to be intended as a concentration camp or a kill camp style similar to the Holocaust?
Not a kill camp, but I would consider keeping people detained for wars because of the war.
Okay. And Coin, do you consider, actually I'm going to ask you this question too then. I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you consider that to be a concentration or kill camp designed for the Palestinians?
No, I'd say it's inhumane, but not that far.
Okay, and then I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked his name earlier, Tyler earlier. Do you think that population growth is a sign, even if there's being said that it is a genocide, that it is not a sign of genocide?
Still the same answer.
Depending, yeah, it just depends on I guess the cause or the specific instance of the genocide. If you're going to say it's genocide due to the blockade, it would be hard to say that the population grows during starvation due to a blockade.
And that's time. So, very cool, very cool. I appreciate everybody following along there and doing their thing. I'm now going to open the floor. We're going to give it back to the debaters for 30 minutes. Now it's gloves off. Y'all go ahead and just ask each other questions at willy-nilly. Talk as you feel you want and ask each other questions. Remember that you're not trying to persuade each other. You're trying to persuade the judges and the viewers. Time is going to go ahead and start now.
I want to start out real quick and address a question to Tyler, which is that you've said that you just said that an increasing population indicates that a genocide is not occurring. First, I want to make sure I'm getting that correct. Okay, so then would you say that the Native Americans did not have a genocide perpetrated against them, given that they have a higher population today than they did in 1500 when, well, actually it was later than 1500, but anyways, in the 16th century when, European settlers first started to colonize North America?
No, I'd say that's an apples to oranges comparison because one's over the course of a specific war, while the other one is over the course of several centuries.
Okay, but the problem is that the claim that you made was that if the population is increasing, then there is no genocide, and we saw that the population has increased, but like it's still, I think, widely recognized that a genocide against Native Americans did occur. So how do you square that circle?
I just said that one was over the course of a single war where the genocide is still ongoing, and the other one was over the course of several centuries where any atrocities against these groups have long since stopped and been given sovereign territory and been reproducing with all the benefits of the country around them. So it's an apples to oranges comparison because one's over a specific time frame, the other one's over, again, 5 centuries.
Are you saying that since the bombing started after October 7th that Gaza's population has gone up?
Yes, if you don't account for the people that have left
what?
around. Yes, I have the Gaza Health Ministry data that was updated.
Absolutely not.
Also, real quick, I'd like to interrupt. Allow me to interrupt, please. Anytime somebody asks for it, please just drop. We're not doing a shared chat, so just drop whatever evidence you have or whatever cited references into the chat of the Discord channel. Sorry,
I got
proceed.
that whole document I sent to you before. This has every one of my citations in it. There's about 60, so that's going to be in there as one.
Is it on the right side? Where can
I'll send it to you after this little exchange.
Yeah, if you wiggle your mouse over the window, you'll see the little show chat.
I opened
I
up
see
with
the
that
show chat
in my introduction, by the way. So, Ancom, I want to kind of throw one back at you. So, I noticed in your introduction there was a little bit of an oof there because in your first minute and a half or so, you went through how all these examples from the past, all these people use their propaganda, their lies to say that this is a violent group, and that justified them going in and doing their actual intent, which was to wipe this group out. But then you finish that up, and your next sentence is, but Hamas is actually a threat to Israel, meaning that the whole point about the propaganda being brought up to justify them actually going for their true hidden intent of genocide wasn't a factor here because there is a physical threat. 4,000 rockets on average a year coming in from the south, as well as Hezbollah from the north. There was a 6-front war going on, and they were attacked on all these fronts first, with the coordination of Iran being the one making all of them attack. Like, we have articles and reporting on all of that. It was all orchestrated by Iran.
Perhaps, but do you believe that just because a genuine threat does exist, that you cannot propagandize to make that threat seem far larger than it actually is?
I mean, you can, but that's your point.
Yeah, and that was literally my point with the Israeli propaganda against Hamas and against Palestine more generally. Yes, I do agree with you that Hamas is a threat, and I won't even necessarily contend that Iran isn't making place to organize violence against Israel. But what I will say is that Israel has done quite a lot in response to that to massively overemphasize and overblow the threat that Hamas does pose in order to establish a much larger regime of restriction of rights, of walling people into confined spaces with limited access to necessary resources, in effect creating a situation where Palestinians not only cannot thrive, they are struggling just to get the basic necessities of life.
And this is prior to the war you're talking about?
This has been happening, as far as I am aware, at least since the wall around Gaza was built, although the Israeli settlements in the West Bank and a number of other actions that have been taken by various elements of the Israeli government and civilian population have been trampling on Palestinian rights ever since they gained control of the area in 1949.
So the Oslo Accords, that was happening during the slow-moving genocide, you're saying, when the United States and Israel allowed for a limited election and the people of Gaza elected Hamas as their leadership. You're saying that was part of the slow-moving genocide?
I believe that there was I need to find the sources, so forgive me if I don't have those on hand, but I believe I read something where Israel had actually funneled money in order to make it more likely that Hamas would win that election, specifically, I believe, as a part of that exact slow-moving genocide.
Palestinian Authority, because they didn't want the West Bank and Gaza to both be controlled by the Palestinian Authority, so they picked
It was Fatah, and Fatah was on our side. We forced their election because we thought Fatah was going to win, but Hamas joined and they won. And then we
Fatah versus Hamas, great debate. Just throwing that out.
Then we started. Then we blockaded them because we weren't happy about it, and we tried to coup them because we weren't happy about it. And this is how we got through. Okay. I think Hillary Clinton's on record saying that forcing them to have an election or something was like the worst thing or something.
I just want to say, I think Game Boy said that like Hamas was using a 1/3 of the buildings and the civilian population as like a human shield. I was looking it up, and it's.
Say that. I don't
know. Someone
enough
did.
about conflict.
Someone said 1/3. I believe maybe it was.
It was the houses in Gaza
Tyler.
City had a tunnel entrance, is what I said.
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to mention. I was looking it up. It says that 70% of Gaza was destroyed, though. So how is it if only 1/3 is being used as a human shield, civilian shield, whatever you want to call it? How is it that they destroyed 70% of Gaza as a consequence of that? The numbers don't seem to add up.
Gaza City is just a city within Gaza. There's also Rafah as well. So there's also destruction in that city, and then there was other places as well that were destroyed.
I'm talking about the Gaza Strip as a whole.
Okay, yeah, well, I was only studying that statistic about Gaza City. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
okay,
that's more what I'm
well,
referring to.
If anything, I feel. If anything, I feel that makes Tokahanas's point stronger, because if tunnels were found under only 1/3 of homes in Gaza City, and across the entirety of the Gaza Strip, something like 70% of buildings have been destroyed, then that is a huge overreaction by the Israeli military in terms of how much of the infrastructure they have destroyed. If their goal was simply to prevent Hamas from having those points of access.
That might work if the only buildings inside Gaza were houses.
To go off that point, like they were targeting this one Hamas guy, right? I was following this story. They were trying to target this guy. They bombed 3 separate locations to target the one guy. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, the guy can't be in 3 different places at once. So the intel that they're getting is either faulty, they're going off faulty intel and they're just bombing indiscriminately, or they, something's wrong there because like I said, it's just not adding up.
Just because you don't have the best intel doesn't mean you have faulty intel as well.
But they're saying that they're taking targeted attacks on they know where they are. They're taking targeted attacks. Meanwhile, they're bombing 3 separate locations for one guy. So I'm just saying, like, I think it's becoming more of a civilian issue because they have this faulty intel and they're reacting on just, they're just reacting on instinct.
I want to get to, before we get too far away from it, Fatah, by the way, is the Palestinian Authority. That's what I said took over, and they were not on our side. They were the ones that did the first and second Intifada.
Palestinian Authorities are on our side.
That's why Bibi Netanyahu.
They're collaborators.
They say they were more on our side than Hamas.
Funded an alternative to them was because they didn't want them to get more power. That was the Palestinian Authority. So that's why.
Where is this file that you?
Hamas winning the election and then declaring Israel needs to be destroyed and every Jew in the world needs to be killed. So
if you watch Fatah versus Hamas, the debate on YouTube, the whole debate was about how the new age needs to take over and the old age is out. That's what it was like, how the Palestinian people saw Fatah and Hamas. Fatah was the old age, Hamas was the new age. That's simply how they saw it. They didn't see it as one's not a terrorist, the other is a terrorist. Like, that's not how the civilian population was looking at these groups.
Yeah, Israel saw them as less of a threat. They didn't want the Palestinian Authority to have power in both areas, so they split it up. That's why they funded Hamas and tried to get them to win that election. It's not like they were some secret.
Funding Hamas came later. That came later.
No,
what I mean is, I think it's being propagandized to call this Hamas group terroristic. I understand with October 7th, that is a terrorist attack, but I would say the group acted that way, acted in a terroristic event. But I wouldn't say that group is terroristic just based off of this one event.
They're labeled a terror group, correct?
I personally don't.
But they are labeled one by the government.
They are,
yes. Correct? So then it's accurate to call them a terrorist group, right?
I mean, yeah, but by that token, you can literally call any resistance group a terrorist group, and it just depends on who happens to be in power and assigning those labels. So it becomes an arbitrary, capricious distinction.
You could say that, but these words all have definitions, and we have our representatives in place to make sure that they're accurately pinned to where they need to go. So that's just refuting the
representatives that are funded by these exact groups that we're trying to oppose.
I'd like to get to that because if you look at funding, the anti-Israeli groups outspend Israel almost 20-1 in our government, our universities, and our infrastructure, our newsrooms. Yeah, Qatar puts in almost 10 times the money into our infrastructure. Yes, Qatar puts in 10 times.
We're talking oil money with Qatar. That's a different. That's a different.
Wait. Puts the money in where?
Into our elections, into our government, into our
not into our elections.
Yes, into our government. They put money into PACs. Yes, they
go to Open Secrets.
So does Russia. So does many countries around the world.
The free press.
The Israeli lobby is like basically the second biggest lobby.
Which I was just going to say.
$35 million a cycle, and cycles that see $5 billion come out. They're a drop in the hat.
Dude, they threw $100 million in one fucking primary.
The most they've ever put into any cycle is $58 million. I have the citation right here. And that's
what do you mean by any? Like, individually funding candidates.
$100 million over 20 years. Compared to Israel's 50.
You can go to Open Secrets. You can look at it. What is this big Qatar lobby? What are they called?
It's Qatar, the state of Qatar. There's no Qatar lobby. They hire people to lobby for them.
But that sounds all like they're doing that by the books, and that's how we know about it.
Previously had that job. Pam Bondi worked for Qatar. Kash Patel worked for Qatar.
Correct. What are these called? What are these? Where do we? Because when you put money into politics,
check my citations in my documents.
No, it is individual. Where the fuck is your documents? Where the fuck are your documents?
It's in there.
Because
if we look at Open Secrets. If we look at Open Secrets and look at the 2020 cycle, which is the most recent one they have data for the government of Qatar, they spent a little over $600,000, whereas AIPAC in that same cycle spent over $5 million. So that is in.
I'd like me some
terms of-
$5 million. I tell you what.
Yeah, that's lobbying money. They don't have records for outside spending or campaign contributions, but that seems to be a massive imbalance. So, like, I would need to know the list of people that were calling, the anti-Israel lobby in the U.S. and look at the at the aggregate of their spending in order to back that up. But AIPAC is, I feel it's recognized, one of the largest lobbying and political funding groups in the U.S. Not to mention the fact that there are multiple other conservative organizations that also tend to fund the campaign contributions and lobbying for pro-Israel propaganda. So it's not as if AIPAC is the only one here.
Same thing.
So, like,
I've looked at all this. I'm telling you, the most they've ever put into a single election, $55 million. I'm looking right here. In 2024, they put $100 million into the entire cycle for all politicians, whereas Qatar has put $100 billion in the last 20 years.
Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? Stop making shit up. Your source bro made it up.
Yeah,
Great.
because you didn't do the proper research, I'm not going to get fact checked. I gave you my document. You can go read the citation.
No, you didn't give me the fucking document.
Who's doing the math on the last 20 years? That's what I want.
Link the document. Link it in the chat where I can see it.
Look at your DMs. I linked it to you. But the fact that you didn't do the research before this, you didn't.
No. You're making shit up. So I'm asking where you got the information because there's a site that you can go to.
Free press. I gave you it.
Refute the free press. All right. I'm just looking at your document. One second.
It's gonna take. It's 10 pages long.
I mean, you guys can keep going. What should I control F for?
So I have critiques for the other two as well here. Let me pull that back up. So, Toka, you brought up a couple of anecdotes in your introduction of what was happening there. A lot of this comes from the Gaza Health Ministry. Now, we have instances from the Gaza Health Ministry being that rocket that was shot off from inside of Gaza that hit a parking lot. Gaza Health Ministry said it hit a hospital, killed 500 people. We know that was false. We have a bunch of other smaller false.
Who else are you taking numbers from in regards to Gaza?
The biggest instance of Hamas-backed Gaza Health Ministry lying was the Witkoff massacre on June 2nd, when Hamas, or the Gaza Health Ministry, claimed that Israel shot 30, 40 Gazans and killed in the 20s of Gaza, or 200 they shot at, and then they killed up to 40, I think it was. It turns out Israel released drone footage 3 days later that was Hamas shooting at their own people. They have also issued multiple
Did you watch
threats.
the video? That's not what the video showed. One, and two, every major news organization came out like, that's the different place.
Yeah,
that's a
3
different
days
place.
later. No, multiple. No, I looked into this as well. They released the video,
This hurts my soul.
It completely refuted it, and then Gaza Health Ministry took it back. It's all over already. Like, you can't say it wasn't real. They dropped drone info, and it was from an anonymous single source that told doctors to repeat it.
The drone was from a different incident. That was widely
That's not
reported.
what Israel says. They released the recording. It has the date on the video. So
No,
unless you're accusing
Israel,
them of
because they're
doctoring the
doing-
video and lying.
No, there was just a different place, different incident. It didn't even show what you're saying it showed. And we typically don't want to take the word for the people that we're accusing of a Holocaust. These aren't the people you go to for answers.
So we
generally
can't listen
speaking.
to them even with video evidence because they're liars.
If
But
they
the
want to be
people I'm
listened to, they should let
telling you-
journalists.
I'm
I mean,
telling you,
video
instances of people
evidence.
lying and you're believing them.
Video evidence can be taken out of context. It can be doctored. It can be a number
Okay.
of things. The problem
So
here
show me
is that
proof that it was
Israel
true.
has been repeatedly refusing to allow outside impartial investigations into the numerous cornucopia of claims that have been made against them with regard to the genocide. They could very easily let in investigators from any country in the world they wanted to be an impartial judge of these matters, but they specifically refuse to allow outside investigators
So you're saying
in
there isn't a
to look
country
at
that
any
has
of
done
these
that?
claims, to look look at the living conditions
You're saying a
inside Gaza
country
and the West
hasn't done
Bank,
that
to look
yet?
at any of
Because
that.
I know a government that they did allow in that has done that. Under Joe Biden, the United States State Department went into Israel and Gaza and looked at those NGOs' claims of war crimes, and their report concluded
We would also be
that
complicit
there was
'cause
no
we're funding them.
evidence. Oh, okay, so we're lying. The United States is lying.
Cover
Joe
our own
Biden
ass?
was
I would
lying
totally
too.
believe
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
would absolutely
Everybody that disproves you
100%
is lying.
believe
An
that.
Sources don't
investigation
matter.
into war crimes is lying because you don't. My burden of evidence is here, and yours is just everyone that refutes me is lying. It's a wildly one-sided take.
No, the problem is that we're looking at the motivations of the people doing the investigations. What motivations do they have to potentially misrepresent the information that they're giving out? Obviously, we see that Israel has a strong motivation to misrepresent the information that it's giving in relation to this
And Gaza
conflict.
doesn't?
The U.S. being the main funder and weapon supplier to Israel has a similar motivation. The UN, on the other hand, their investigators are repeatedly denied access to these places in order to verify these claims in a far more impartial way. So that is not a good look for
The UN's
Israel
going off
or
the
the
Gaza Health
US.
Ministry numbers. So the Gaza Health Ministry has that same incentive to lie, correct? Or
You have no rebuttal for the journalism?
So when
No.
Israel produces a video, but the Gaza Health Ministry has one anonymous source that they don't reveal, who is offering up the burden of proof better?
The one
I
not
mean-
allowing the journalism.
Oh, but they're allowing you to
Well,
for the United States.
the one that's that's doing the actual
journalism.
actions. I mean, yeah, we can say that the Palestinian Ministry of Health has a reason to lie. I won't deny that, but the thing is, they're releasing one number about the number of deaths in Gaza, whereas Israel is releasing absolute torrents, wave after wave after wave of propaganda about why they're doing the things that they're doing,
they wanted-
trying to justify sniping children, or just straight up denying it is what they're doing, despite the evidence that we have. So I
If you
don't know
wanted people
what it
to
is that
believe
you.
them, they would let people in to see it. You know what I mean? Like, if they wanted people, they would allow verification for
United
this. They
States
wouldn't just be
government.
like, take my word for it.
Like the
you
United
know,
States
like
government, but you're saying when they allow people in that you don't approve of, like your government, you're saying they're lying. too.
journalists. I'm saying
No, they let
journalists. I'm saying
experts in to go
third-party
and do an
journalists.
investigation. They let investigators in, not just journalists reporting their opinion. They let investigators go in and investigate the claims made by NGOs that have been caught lying in the past as well.
Do you
all
also
these other
believe
people
that
have been
claim
caught
about
lying in the past,
the-
you're just kind of taking it with a grain of sand. Israel, you're
Yes,
just saying
because
that everything
because
they say is a
Israel and the
lie.
U.S. have never been caught lying in the past. Like your use of they've been
I'm
caught
not the
lying
one
in the
for
past
believe
is
the claim about the beheaded
I'm holding
children.
all
I
to
need
the
to
same
know.
standard. You're saying we can't believe a single
The
thing
beheaded
coming out of
babies. Do we
I'm not
believe?
saying
That was
one
soldier said that he saw dead babies and he got a game of telephone and made it into 40 dead babies when it was probably
Okay,
5
so we
at
know.
most.
Okay,
Yeah, I remember.
we're on the same page. So we are on the same page that was
That's not
unverified.
in my notes. I left that point behind.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear, because so that right there. Okay, so that was why I was bringing this up, because that right there is proof that things can be misconstrued, lied about, taken out of
By the media, right?
context, and nationalized. That was a national headline for weeks,
So was the
and
Rick
that
Hoffman
everyone was like, "Oh no, they're good. That bombed the whole strip. It's fine." Like they beheaded babies, and that they turned a blind eye to it after that. Like that's all it took, and it was a false story.
So was the Wyckoff massacre. So was the hospital bombing. I just again like you guys both actually went to the UN, so that's a good time to kind
The
of.
hospital bombing you're referring to that was the one in the parking lot you're
Yeah,
referring
the
to.
parking
I mean,
lot got
to
hit
be
by a
clear,
Gazan rocket. Yeah.
they've destroyed nearly all of the hospitals.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Once
And also
they
on
confirmed
that,
there was Hamas in them. Yes.
How can you justify
and
that?
the
Because that
parking
makes it a
lot,
valid
the
target.
parking lot
That's what
explosion.
war
How many did
war
die?
rules are.
How many died in that? How many died? How many
In the
did die?
parking lot, they claimed it was
Yeah.
500. I thought that only like 8 people were casualties. I don't know if they died or were just injured. I don't know.
Yeah, the U.S. the Pentagon said it was shy of 300. That's
You
what
only think
our
8 people died with no hospitals available?
There was
You're
no
like,
hospital. No,
delusional.
this was the specific event that happened.
That
the IGF shot off
our
a rocket
biased
and it malfunctioned
government-
into a parking lot.
Our
There is
biased
a literal
government estimated it at nearly
famine.
300. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Yeah, if it was a hospital.
It wasn't
and then-
8.
And then Israel released footage showing it was their rocket hitting a parking lot. So, I mean, I don't know after that, but I want to talk about the UN real quick because both of you guys keep bringing up the UN has a long history of being biased, but that bias from the past would be welcome now. If you look at the UN since the October 7th attack, when Hezbollah violated UN treaties and went into the Litani River, a 19-mile strip north of Israel, they moved rockets in, they firebombed the top 25% of Israel completely unprovoked. Hezbollah never once got attacked. Firebombed and made all the Jews in Israel move into the center of the country. The UN did nothing about it. They violated a peace treaty.
Your little document here says that the IPAC has spent $35 million in politics since 1998. This is a typo.
No, it's general politics. They not only lobby, but they also do campaign funding. So it's a mix between the multiple things that they do.
35 million. They spent, but you could look on Open Secrets, and just them spent nearly $100 million.
That was supposed to be on a single race. I'm sorry, that was the single race.
Yeah, because you could look at it. Who lobbies the most, and it's Israel's lobby. And by the way, this not quote unquote Israel's lobby because they don't have to register as a foreign lobby.
Just pro-Israel. Yeah.
We just allow them to not have to register, but they're
U.S. based. They're U.S. owned. They're in the U.S. established. They're U.S. donated to. Most of the donations are coming from the United States. It's a U.S. based lobby. Just pro-Israel.
They lobby for the benefit of a foreign government. They are a foreign entity. That is their one goal.
Works.
Yes, that's how that works.
That's not how that works.
That's what they do.
You have to have coordination with the foreign.
It doesn't matter because if you look at who puts
laws.
the most money into our Congress and into our government, it is Israeli. It is pro-Israeli PACs.
Not as close. China and alone, China is the #1 contributor to our government.
You know there's a website you could just go and look, right? Yes. Because you got 10,000 words here, fucking schizo doc. I'm not gonna fucking dig through all your little fucking links here because there's just a website you can go to and look, and they say it's not close. They say it's not close at all. I'm as quick as we can on this shit.
Just as a final point here, there is a famine going on in Gaza, mixed with people being pushed into tents and living on the streets, and all these diseases being spread with no hospitals being available. This is a utter and completely most genocide in our lifetime.
I actually want to push back. I actually want to push back on the classification of this as a famine, because a famine is a natural occurrence. This is this appears to be an intentional use of starvation as a weapon.
I was trying to be unbiased, but yes.
No, that's totally fair. But no, like famines.
It's just people are starving to death. Like that's just the fact.
Famines are generally considered to be cases where food restriction is caused by natural causes, not by artificial restriction of the flow of food, which Israel has been has been very restrictive on the flow of food into Gaza. 120 some trucks a day, when the absolute minimum calorie requirement would require over 600 trucks per day.
That alone is starving the population, is a genocide.
That's not the definition of a famine. That, like, a famine can be forced onto a group of people. To bring it back to the point, the Holocaust was a famine. In the concentration camps, they had famines. That could help your point, but you're like famine.
We usually qualify it. You usually say man-made famine.
Yeah, man-made famine, but at the end of the day, that's a classification of famines. Whenever we describe a spider, we can describe what kind of spider they are, but it's still a spider, and we can't strip that away by saying, okay, well, the cause is yada yada yada. It is you could say it's a man-made famine or a naturally causing famine, but it is a famine. Like, you can make that comparison with the Holocaust.
You usually do qualify it when the qualifying is needed, I would say. We
still
don't,
helps
we
our
don't,
point. I'm just,
we don't call what happened in the Great Leap War. We don't say there was a famine, you know.
You had to say which was more justified, a blockade of Israel to Gaza or a blockade like to the ghettos from Nazi Germany. I mean, we've already in here said that, you know, Hamas is a legit threat. Do we also think that the Jews during World War II were a legit threat?
Germans.
No, but the Germans would have said the same thing about the Jews, that they were a threat to the purity of the Aryan race, and like this was literally the propaganda
Did they ever?
No, obviously not.
Did they ever shoot rockets into Nazi Germany?
I mean, the various resistances certainly did quite a lot of damage in various German cities against the Nazi regime. So,
ruining
I don't know.
Basically, it wasn't the military, but yeah, they blamed the Jews for ruining German economics.
So you think the blockades on the Jews were probably more with the intent to stop the damage to Germany from like those attacks, not any other like genocidal intent?
I would say
no, obviously there was a genocidal intent in Germany, but that's.
I'm trying to get that. Do you think the same genocidal intent is present in Israel? Like that's the only reason for the blockade is genocidal intent?
Yes.
I believe that is the primary reason for the blockade. Yeah.
Have you heard
I don't see
anything?
any
other
other
than
reason
that?
you wouldn't let food.
They do let food in.
Nope.
Not nearly enough.
Nope. Not
Well,
to
there's
not
either
to
not nearly
sustain
enough or they
1.5
don't.
million population. No. Nope.
I mean, in the case of not nearly enough versus they don't at all, I mean, okay, but like the fact is they're still starving the population.
The little
that they're giving, they're getting to kill each other over. What do you
killing them a
mean?
little bit more
It does
slowly.
not compare to the Holocaust.
Maybe not in retrospect, but I mean, if you look at the actual,
Well, if it's not in retrospect, then isn't don't you disagree with the prompt you're trying to defend?
I mean, I said at the beginning that I disagree with the idea of comparing two historical events one to one, but I do believe that this is a situation where history may not be repeating, but it certainly is rhyming. But the point that I'm making is that if you look at the point of the Nazi control over Germany and the surrounding countries and their treatment of the Jews, if you look at the earliest days of the Holocaust or the pre-Holocaust points in time, the Warsaw and Krakow ghettos, the Dresden bombings, etc., we're seeing a similar rate of escalation and a similar rate of the increasing violence of Israel against Palestine that we saw of the Nazis against Jews. So I'm saying it is a comparable set of circumstances, and we're only just we're a bit over a year and a half into this particular conflict, and we've already seen massive casualties, especially as on a per capita rate, because yes, there were a lot more deaths of Jews than there are of Palestinians. There are also just a lot more Jews in Europe than there are Palestinians, especially Palestinians in Gaza. So we're seeing similar levels of violence on a per capita basis, and we're definitely seeing that scale increasing over time.
Real quick, perfect stop. So I've already asked the judges, but I'm going to go ahead and ask publicly. Do the judges want to see another 15 minutes, or do we think that we've heard enough and we're ready for closings? Alonzo, why don't you go first? Do you want another 15, or have you heard enough?
Sorry, my fault. I had to get the. First off, I didn't notice that you were messaging me because I have
That's okay. No worries.
So my fault about that. But
do you want to hear another 15 minutes?
I think I've heard enough because for the most part, this has kind of been an in-circle argument about like the separation between a genocide and a Holocaust comparison for like
All right.
30 minutes.
Fair enough. But the judges have to both agree, otherwise the debate goes for another 15 minutes. Lethe, did you want to hear another 15 minutes?
I mean, I could go for another 15, but I can understand where my fellow judge is coming from. I'll say we can call it here.
Okay. Well, then in that case, we're going to go ahead and move to the final arguments or closing arguments. We're going to do it in the same order that we did it earlier. And for what it's worth, I was kind of getting to getting more engaging there at the last, so I was kind of eager to hear another 15 myself. But the judges agreed that we're good here, so we're going to give each person another 5 minutes. We're going to start with Casey here. You don't have to use the entire 5 minutes, and remember, everybody, this is each of you is going to get your own 5 minutes. Once again, in the same order that it was earlier. So, Casey, are you ready for your closing?
It's not reverse order or something sexy like that.
No, because that would mean so I actually thought about that, and the reason I didn't is because it would give Casey the most power, or whoever goes first the most power, because you get to ask, or you go with the first 3 minutes, and then you're also the last 2 minutes of cross-X in the opening. So to give you also the final word would be just too much, in my opinion. So that's why we're doing it in the same order.
Worthless. It's worthless for sure. It sucks. Okay.
But you know what? For the next time,
sure.
I'll take it into consideration. So Casey, 5 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and give me your closing.
All right. I think that like the divide between like sort of putting like Nazi type stuff like onto Israel and Israel's soldiers, like I think if people want like understand better like Israeli society, like that it isn't just like coming out of the blue or whatever. That this is, it's not just like, it's just not just like I think that's like I don't fear like American soldiers, like U.S. soldiers, or that was what was some people had said that like Trump is going to bring in U.S. soldiers or whatever. Like, good, bring in U.S. soldiers, because they're not not going to be murking civilians like the IDF does. But so I do have some stats and stuff. Let's start with the Israeli Ministerial Committee for Legislation. They passed this bill banning the political activity of Arab students in Israeli universities, blah, blah, blah. Here's a couple polls. Nearly half of Jewish Israelis agree that Arabs should be expelled or transferred from Israel, and a solid majority, 79%, maintain that the Jews in Israel should be given preferential treatment at the times of Israel. A Pew study finds 79% of Israelis believe that Jews should get preferential treatment. Legislators approve law denying naturalization of Palestinians from the West Bank or Gaza married to Israeli citizens. Also, if you are Arab and you want to marry a Jewish person and you're both Israeli citizens, you very much likely, almost everyone has to leave the state of Israel to do it. But they say that it's because of the religion, but it's not because of the religion. Everyone who is Jewish in Israel is considered, quote unquote, under the Jewish religion. So the court, the rabbinic court that manages, like, basically they stop interracial marriages with Jews and Arabs. There's you could find on YouTube what happens when an Arab guy marries a Jewish girl. There's protests. There's fucking protests. Imagine that, an interracial marriage is like gets protested. It's cray. And then yeah, Israeli poll finds a majority would be in favor of apartheid policy. These are all sort of older headlines. I'll also say that at some point, like Netanyahu holds up this sign, and Yahweh's sign in Israel, and it like shows all of Israel, and it doesn't have the green line in it. No green line. Yeah, and he's often like criticized for holding this up. But this map where there's no West Bank and there's no Gaza, that is by law every map of Israel that Jewish students get in Israel. There is no green line. They don't put it there. In 2020, Tel Aviv tried to pass a law to put the green line in their maps, and then their education ministry blocked it. That they brainwash these kids to thinking that this is theirs and the Palestinians are squatters, basically. There was a book banning because it had an Israeli-Jewish relationship in it. there's a super racist quote too from the lady. In the anyway, that is Israeli society. It is extremely racist. It's extremely fascist, and it has to be because they go into the West Bank, and oh, you're not Jewish. You can't drive on this road. You literally can't drive on this. Oh, you're not Jewish. Oh, you are Jewish. Okay, this is what the IDF does every day. And what's my time here? What's my time?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that is what the IDF does. That is Israel. It's worse than apartheid. At least in apartheid, the black people were citizens of a country. Palestinians haven't. They're people who haven't been citizens of a country for 75 years because of Israel's goal is focused on one thing, which is moving them out, getting them out, and taking over the area. It's the same. It's the same as the Germans. And the sad truth, the sad reality is that when Germans were planning the ethnic cleansing, of Europe, Zionists were planning it for Palestine.
All right. So that was time. Went a little bit over, but that's okay. Just so I'm sure you guys have figured this out. If you're in the middle of a thought, I'm going to do what I can to try to let you finish your point or finish your thought. I'm not just going to be that strict on it. So thank you, Casey. Now we're going to go ahead and go over to Tyler for Tyler's 5-minute closing. If you are ready, Tyler, 5 minutes is on the clock, and go.
So again, I'm going to kind of start with my introduction here. In a way, the prompt tonight was to ask if this is the second Holocaust or a genocide generally, and clearly does not even come close. If there had been Jews firing 4,000 rockets into Greater Germany while calling for the death of all Germans and launching a six-front war against Germany, backed by a state that was 10 times the size of Germany, we might have a comparison, but all of those very key details, like who started the war, all got left out of this, and the people that actually engaged in the conflict with the intent to completely destroy Israel and wipe out all of the Jews on the face of the earth, they're the victims of genocide, where Israel is actually the perpetrator despite their actions of keeping Palestinians alive, relocating 1.5 million people during a wartime, feeding 10 million plus meals a week to the people of Gaza. Now, we talked a little bit about the UN here. The UN food trucks are currently sitting right outside Gaza because they don't want Israel's assistance delivering the food. So there's food, thousands of pounds of food sitting right outside of Gaza that is in the UN's possession that they won't put into the country. It's in my citations. We also have that UN aid that was going into the country. It was being seized by Hamas over and over and over again. Tons of video evidence for it. We have warehouses inside of Gaza that have been raided. All this is on camera. You can go watch all of it happen. Gazans raiding a Gazan warehouse that was controlled by UNRWA. Hamas was actually controlling and executing their own people. There's videos of UN cars pulling up to Gazan citizens and executing them for taking aid. There's threats that you can go watch right now from authority in Gaza saying if you accept the IDF aid, you will be met with violence. They're threatening their own people not to take food. In their most recent ceasefire, they demanded that Israel stop delivering food through the IDF to Gaza. They literally demanded less food because their food that they seize, they can turn around and resell to fund their war, while at the same time pretending like there's a famine going on. What we learned, the New York Times had to retract their story about famine because the picture that you keep seeing around of a couple children with their bones showing actually have diseases that cause their bones to show through their bodies. One of them had the kid's younger brother looking well-fed, standing right behind him. Like the famine only happened to one of the kids in that family. So we did also touch upon the UN ignoring Hezbollah going into a peace zone, breaking war treaties that they had in order to attack unprovoked Israel. 5 other territories also attacked Israel unprovoked, one of them being Gaza. These 6 territories that all attacked together were under the Iranian flag, under Iranian backing, and what we know now is they were also all trained by Iran and coordinated by Iran. So Iran's goal was to wipe them off the face of the earth. Israel's stated goal is, we want Hamas out of power. Most of their people, according to polling from Gallup right now, shows that the majority want a two-state solution, but Hamas has to be removed from power, including the non-Jewish Arab citizens of Israel. So the difference here is that a Holocaust indiscriminately kills people. When 96% of your population remains unfazed, 2% of your population moves away, and 2% is killed, half of which being enemy combatants. We didn't even touch upon that Gaza has 20,000 child soldiers in their ranks, and the Gaza Health Ministry has a long history of pretending that Gaza troops were just innocent civilians being shot for no reason. All of these factors have been proven. We have video evidence. We have all sorts of evidence out there. You have to deny so much to pretend like this is people in the Warsaw Ghetto just standing up against oppression. So at the end of the day, Israel is not only just, but they were attacked by a country aiming to wipe them off the face of the earth. They were resisting a genocide, and if they wanted to, they could completely wipe out Gaza tomorrow. This slow drip of 60 years of dealing with this, when they could just wipe them off their land in a week, it doesn't make any sense. Why would they slowly rip off this band-aid and deal with hate from the world for 60 years when they could just push these people out of there? So at the end of the day, all these claims don't add up. All we're doing is guessing Israel's intent and ignoring that the people attacking them are openly stating their attempt to genocide the Jewish people of Israel. They're openly stating it in their charters, they're openly stating it on the news, they're openly stating it in their government that they want to kill this state of Israel, completely wipe it off the map and take over the land. And we're ignoring that to say Israel's actually the aggressors here. It just, so much has to get left behind in order to blame them for this or just say it's a Holocaust, and it's 90% of the facts. So at the end of the day, I think Israel's right.
And that's time. All right, good stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to number 3. That's going to be Toka. Remember, everybody, if you do not want to use your entire 5 minutes, you do not have to. So if you get to a point where you've made your closing, you're always welcome to. Toka, are you ready for your 5? You're muted. In case you did not know.
That would help. Sorry about that.
Are you ready for your 5?
I am indeed, yes.
All right, 10-4. And go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, so I was going over while he was talking a couple of the photos that I've seen on my Instagram. I follow this Eye on Palestine page, so I showed a couple of images from there. You said it was only a few photos coming out, but I've seen numerous photos coming out of starving children in Gaza. But regardless of that, I wanted to go into my points here. The Gaza Strip has been rumored to have been occupied for 75 years. Obviously, this hasn't started on October 7th. This is an ongoing occupation of the Gaza Strip that has escalated to this point. According to ChatGPT here, I'm going off of just to summarize, according to them, it's 58 years. The occupation started in 1967 after the Six-Day War. Following the Six-Day War, in 1967, the territories were previously under the control of Jordan, West Bank, and East Jerusalem, and Egypt. While Israel withdrew its military and settlers from the Gaza Strip in 2005, it continues to control its borders, airspace, and territorial waters, which is why the United Nations and other organizations still consider it an occupied territory. Going off of that, you can clearly see why this is a continuous genocide from an escalation of that from 58 years ago, according to the math. And just yesterday, we have Israel has killed at least 24 people in Gaza, and including 13 waiting for aid. Over 100 have been injured. 5 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrike on an apartment building in the town of Zawaida, if I'm pronouncing it, in central Gaza. Another Israeli airstrike west of Zawaida has killed 1 Palestinian. 3 Palestinians were killed and others injured in an Israeli airstrike targeting a tent camp for displaced people west of Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. Just 73 trucks entered Gaza yesterday, far below the 500 to 600 needed daily just to sustain the population. Most of the trucks were looted due to the lack of security infrastructure and growing desperation as Israel's engineered famine takes hold. So we have a desperate population struggling and fighting to get to this aid. And when they do get to it, they're all fighting each other to get the little bit that they can when there's not enough for everybody. So they're fighting. The strongest ones are going to be the ones who can come out of that with food. Like that, at the end of the day, that's just how it happens if you're starving an entire population. It doesn't matter what population we're talking about. And I just want to stress that point because it's like we constantly want to look at them as like they're these terroristic, like they hate America, hate us, they want us, they want to kill every Jewish person, every American, yada yada. But meanwhile, this is what we're doing to them. So how would you really feel in that situation if you were to put yourself in those shoes? So continuing, this is still from yesterday, by the way. All of that I said was from yesterday. Continuing from yesterday, Atef Abu Khader, a 17-year-old Palestinian, has died of malnutrition in Al-Shifa hospital. At least 162 Palestinians have now died of hunger-related causes, including 92 children. Israeli forces have carried out a series of aerial attacks to the north of Khan Yunis, targeting and destroying homes and infrastructure. The IOF stormed Beit Daku, northwest of occupied East Jerusalem, and shot a 21-year-old Palestinian man in both legs. They also stormed Deir Jarir, east of Ramallah, Kalkilia, and Nablus. Israeli attacks killed at least 106 people across Gaza on Friday. 2 more children and an adult also died due to forced famine and malnutrition. So this is not something it's not something that can be ignored. Like I just don't understand like how this is justified by anyone at the end of the day. And that's I'm gonna call my time. That's it. That's all I can handle of this.
Okay, very good. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to Game Boy with your 5-minute closing. Game Boy, are you ready? Are you muted? You were muted.
Yep, I'm
Are
ready.
you ready now? All right, 10-4. Your 5 minutes is ready. So are you. Go ahead and when you're ready.
I would say that I'm kind of unhappy with how this conversation ended out playing, because when I joined, I did it with the mindset that we'd be focusing on the prompt mainly. I would say that I agree with Toka full-heartedly in that I came into this conversation being pro-Palestine and I'm leaving being pro-Palestine. My issue with the prompt itself is the direct comparison to a genocide or Holocaust. And I would feel like that never got really talked about insofar as the war is just, therefore there's no genocide, or the war is unjust, therefore there's a genocide. And the comparisons to the Holocaust weren't used any more than it's a buzzword to try to help the point that I don't like the war. And I feel like this was a very poor way of playing it and doing the debate, because there's no way you could possibly I think I went in with the impression, like Ancom said, I don't think we can look at it and compare this event and look back and say, oh, it's like the Holocaust in these ways. And I would say that Ancom, and to a lesser extent Casey and Toka, would be on my side to say that you can't directly compare this event to the Holocaust fulsome, because the Holocaust is very dependent on the events that took place during the Nazi Germany and the full anti-Semitism. Now, when we look at the war, I could definitely make an argument that it isn't just an ethnic cleansing, but I'm not, when I make that argument, saying it's just or unjust, because I do think it's an unjust war fulsome. I'm making the argument that it isn't a ethnic cleansing on the full basis of what I see when I look at the facts. And when I look at the facts, I agree with Casey. I do think that there is racism, but I don't think that's the motivation for the war or most of the actions taken by the Israeli government. I think it is to try to continue to spread their domain within the region and to try to continue Western influence with the backing of the US government and many European governments, to a lesser extent. Now, you can make the argument, well, we're backing a genocide, but I don't see that when we implemented the Israeli government, we weren't aware of some of the violence that would take place to maintain our influence. And I think the U.S. has knowingly taken place in this violence. And I think it is for the same reasons that we engaged in that violence that the Israeli government is as well. They are trying to maintain American interest, Western influence, Israeli influence within the region. It is not just because they have a personal grievance with the Palestinians. Now, to my point earlier, I will say that many of the comparisons we draw with genocide, it's through the means rather than the intent or the goal that they're trying to meet. And I think this is just very unwise and very intellectually dishonest, because you can make any war seem like a genocide, and you can make any genocide seem like an equal conflict depending on your phrasing. And we have no way to possibly prove the intent behind Netanyahu or the Israeli government beyond just statements that they may be knowingly putting out that could, if they are doing a genocide, could be misleading. Or if they're not doing a genocide but are just racist, we could not know this. And it's impossible to know the hearts of these people in power. So the reason I joined the debate was because I knew it's such a hard thing to prove. And I think because it's such a hard thing to prove, Casey, Ancom, Toka didn't prove that it was a Holocaust-like event. They proved in their personal view that it was unjust, which we could say has parallels to the Holocaust, but I don't think it's a Holocaust-like event.
And I'm guessing that's your time, so good job. All right, and we're going to go ahead and move to Ancom. Ancom, for your 5 minutes, you go ahead and bring it home for your team, sir. You ready?
All right. Yep.
All right, go.
So the question is, are we witnessing a second Holocaust? And as I said at the beginning, I dislike that framing because comparing any two historical events, no matter how similar one to one, is almost always going to be fallacious. But if we look at the etymological root of the word Holocaust, coming from the Greek word holocauston, meaning a burnt sacrifice, and we look at some of these statements from Israeli officials, especially the Amalek rhetoric that we were seeing back in 2023, where they were quoting a biblical story of Israel completely destroying Amalek, I would say that there is at least a plausible connection between this concept of a burnt offering and the complete destruction of a people such as the Palestinians. Now, whether or not that is the full intent behind this, I can't say. I can say that there have been multiple quotes from multiple different officials in the Israeli government that certainly make it seem that way. But I do agree with Game Boy that you're right. You can't prove the intent. All you can do is look at the facts that are available and make a determination as to whether or not this particular action is or could lead to a similar toll of lives in such an unjustified way as we saw in the Holocaust. So, going over the various facts in the case, we have the situation of the Warsaw Ghetto, where the oppressed population was confined to a specific area with a wall being built around, effectively preventing any form of a departure. We see that both in the Warsaw Ghetto and in Gaza. We look at the starvation that is occurring within Gaza. Tyler tells us that there are 10 million meals per week being delivered by the IDF to Gaza. Well, there are about 2 million people in Gaza. So 7 meals a week. I'm sorry, 1 meal a day for those 2 million people for a week would be 7 million meals. So they're getting maybe a meal a day. Maybe. Actually, hold on. 10 million meals, 2 million people. Oh yeah, sorry, no, that's an average of less than 1 meal a day. So, like, we're seeing that there is a massive food restriction. Again, this is something that Israel could choose to change. They could choose to let a ton more food in, because there's certainly plenty of aid that is available to be sent, but they are not doing this. The reason being given, at least in part, is the fear that Hamas will take these supplies and then resell them to the Gazan population to control that supply. Well, that sounds an awful lot like the imposition of a black market, and an easy way to kill a black market is to flood that market. So if you start letting in the amount of food that's required and then some, which is absolutely available to be done, then you can rob Hamas of that power pretty easily. We're looking at, we're seeing claims that Hamas is hiding behind civilians, and yet the Israeli military is still killing civilians anyway. I heard the claim that Hamas is the only source of civilian deaths, which is just laughable. I mean, given that we are literally seeing multiple reports from multiple doctors of seeing children, multiple children coming in with 50 caliber wounds in them. Which, you know, 50 cal is either a sniper or a machine gun, and there are no reports of machine guns associated with these shootings, so that leaves sniper. We have Israeli sharpshooters shooting down children. What the fuck? Like, all of the facts that we're seeing tell me that this is a historical event that is coming to the level that we saw in the Holocaust, and I think that this is something that is comparable. Is it one-to-one the same? Absolutely not. Is it something that we're seeing massive similarities and historical rhyming? We absolutely are. That's my time.
Very good. Landed it on the tarmac as well. Koina, are you ready for your 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, then in that case, I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer, and you go off.
So I've said that before. I agree with Ancom's saying that the prompt is hard to defend, especially from that side, because it's not ever going to be a 1-to-1 kind of ratio. I'll be with him on that. I will disagree though, because it is not on the same level whatsoever. If Israel had a plan that they got together and came to a final solution to, solve all of their problems by eliminating every Palestinian on the Europe continent, I'd say sure. Especially if they had reports afterward detailing their, detailed reports of their killings and murders across Europe, to the extent of eradicating half of the Jewish population of Europe, I'd be with you. It'd be on the same level, but it's not anywhere near close to that. I keep hearing only X amount of trucks are able to get into Gaza. I think a lot of people, for some reason, don't realize that there's a ton of aid also airdropped into Gaza, a lot more than is available from the trucks. I don't know why that's never brought up as part of the aid getting in. Outside of that, I also heard something about genocide. The root word is about a burnt offering or a burnt sacrifice. I would go along more with the actual international law standard of what ANCOM actually said before. I can bring it up. The Genocide Convention was made after the Holocaust as kind of a response to it, so I think it's kind of related. It is the killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the group, deliberately inflicting, all that stuff. Not debating. The debate is the intent of that genocide, and it's not. It's so much more easily explained by military reasoning or other things other than genocidal intent. It's just silly. And that's it.
That's your time? All right. Well, that concludes all of the timed portions. So I have some questions from the chat, but I think I'm actually going to hold on to those until after we've done the judging, and we can but the chat's probably going to want to hear the answer, but they didn't tell me who to specifically ask. So I'm going to actually just go around and I'm going to see, let me take a look at your faces. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to ask these questions myself. They're not my questions, they're from chat, but I'm going to ask them to a couple of y'all. from each side. So going back to the affirmative side, from innuendo, what is the Israeli government and the Palestinian people each doing to bring peace to the region? So just to kind of chew that up, what I think they're asking there, and to make sure, what is each side in this conflict doing to de-escalate or bring peace? I'll go ahead and just go in a quick circle. Tyler, you first.
Oh, there's a two-front thing going on right now. So a lot of the hostage families in Israel are having a very big voice. So the movement to have a temporary ceasefire to get the rest of the 20 remaining living hostages out is a big part of what they're doing. But Israel's flat out said they will not end this war until Hamas surrenders or is forcefully removed from power. So they're not doing much to de-escalate in terms of stopping their mission. Right now it looks like they're going at it through different tactics. They've withdrawn some of their armies and they're starting to go into those areas of Gaza City that they were avoiding because they think the hostages are stored there. So we're seeing a shift in tactics right now. It looks like they're going to start using more special forces and less boots on the ground because Hamas is so badly wounded. They've lost so many people in their ranks, like their leadership's completely decimated. So I'd say at the moment, it's not much. They're not really doing much to de-escalate, but they're kind of ramping down the overall fighting and doing targeted specific strikes on hostages.
And do you feel the other side is doing anything to de-escalate?
No. Not at all.
All right, sounds good. Go ahead and to you, Ancom, same question. What do you think both sides are doing to try to de-escalate this situation?
Well, I will go with Tyler's answer on what Israel is doing. You know, they seem to be at least mildly rolling back certain military operations and doing more surgical strikes, but overall they're not actually de-escalating the situation. As far as the Palestinian side, you know, Hamas, I will grant, is fanatically committed to this conflict, but Hamas is an extreme minority of the Palestinian population overall. The Palestinian civilians, there's not a lot they can do to de-escalate. They're just trying to survive. So at this point in time, the onus really is on the clearly greater power in the situation to be making the actions needed to get this conflict under control and de-escalate the situation back to a point of peace. And as long as Israel is as fanatically committed to the destruction of Hamas as Hamas is to Israel, this is never going to end. And you know, it seems like Israel won't stop until Hamas is completely wiped out, which they can't be sure of until pretty much the entirety of the Palestinian population of Gaza is wiped out. So I don't see much in the way of de-escalation on either side, but one side has a far larger onus to pursue that than the other does.
All right, good answer. I'll accept that. And now to you, Casey. What do you think both sides are doing in this situation to try to de-escalate?
You're muted.
Yeah, Casey, you're muted, so go ahead and start over. I'll restart the time as well. Go
Hamas
ahead.
has on numerous occasions made deals for the hostages, and Israel just needs to get out of Gaza. That is the basic premise of their side of the negotiating. Israel at this point is clearly and stated explicitly that they'll only take surrender. They'll only take surrender, a full surrender. Basically, everyone Hamas is needs to go up against the wall. But I want to point out that you could see what Israel's version of peace looks like if you just look in the West Bank. It looks a lot like oppression and apartheid, and I don't know why we could all just stand for these people not to have any human rights, any basic human rights for 75 years, 4 million people. Like where else would we stand for this? That's Israel's version of peace is a slave race of Arabs that they really don't want there, but they'll take their cheap labor because they can't get away with ethnically cleansing them. But that's Israel's version of peace.
Okay. All right, I'll take that answer. To you, Toka, same question. What do you think either side or both sides are doing to foster peace?
From what I understand, Hamas had previously wanted to take a July 2nd deal from over a year ago, not this past July 2nd. And Israel had denied it, or there was some scrutiny about it, and they ended up pitching them a new deal that they denied, and they just went from there. And then also, Hamas has also systematically released hostages in order to conjure, sympathy, as they do with hostages. So yeah, there was that. I mean, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that was something that conjured peace, because they kind of, riled things up with taking the hostages in the first place. But, they did release some hostages, and they released remains of hostages. As far as Israel goes, I can't seem to think of an argument as to how they have tried to conjure peace at all. They pitch these ceasefire deals, and then during the ceasefire, they continue to bomb Gaza. So it's just very unclear as to why they even pitch the ceasefire in the first place. So I mean, that's about my entire point there. Like, I just don't see how Israel's the aggressor in the situation. So I don't see how they're conjuring any peace.
Take that answer. Hey, Cosmic, just so you know, I'm gonna open it up to the audience. Everybody can pile in here in just a few minutes. This is still the formal, organized, structured debate. So that was a lot of unnecessary adjectives. Game Boy, are you ready for the same question? I'm gonna ask you either way. What do you think either side? This is from Innuendo in chat. What do you think either side or both sides are doing to foster peace in the region?
I think, while I would like to say that the Palestinians, while acting as a resistance force, are trying to provide peace, they are the ones who maintain conflict. I think this conflict is for a greater good, but I would say that they're not doing much for peace outside of, if they win, which is an unlikelihood, this could provide better conditions for the people in Palestine. I think Israel, out of all people, will continue to have the upper hand and be the stronger party within the war, and they have more opportunities that can be cited, like I'm pretty sure Tyler did, of trying to actually provide meaningful ways to have momentary peace. And overall, if they get their goals, which is a higher probability, that will just have momentary peace. I think Israel has the ability and occasionally acts on the ability to establish peace. I can't provide any real examples on the dome.
All right, good stuff. And then finally, last is to you, Koina. Same question. What do you think either or both sides is doing to foster peace in the region?
I would probably say both of them not enough. I think I agree with the notion that more responsibility goes on the side with more power, so Israel probably has more responsibility in de-escalation. I think still we're missing the point of the prompt with this question even, because I would say, what did the Jews have like a role in de-escalating that situation, and how would these be comparable to that? Because I think that's where, like, this situation isn't bad. Or isn't not. This situation isn't good. The situation is bad. I don't think anyone's saying that this is the ideal thing that needs to happen. But this is not the Holocaust. I think that's... I've said it a bunch, but that's it.
Yep. Good. All right, fantastic. So we do have one more quick question. Since we didn't get the extra 15 minutes, this actually kind of works out well to fill it out and gives chat the opportunity to participate. I got one more quick question. This one's, of course, from Gorps. I'm sure we all know Gorps here. Gorps was going to be on the panel tonight but couldn't make it, so rip. So I'm actually going to just ask one of the two. Is the possibility of complete cutting off of support from the West a possible reason why they are trying to slowly rip this Band-Aid? Or, Gorps, did Hamas have the intent? I prefer this question. Let's go with this one. I'm going to ask each of y'all this one instead. Did Hamas have the intent to completely obliterate Israel on October 7th, when there has been no persistent ground invasion since the initial invasion? So question's going to go to you first there, Tyler, once again. Do you believe that the original intent of Hamas was the complete obliteration of the Israeli people?
Yes. So what we have is reporting on this. It's Sinwar basically jumped the gun, is what Bibi Netanyahu said a few weeks ago. This was orchestrated by Iran. These were all supposed to kind of go off at the same time, but since there was such a minuscule amount of communication due to the level of secrecy, Hamas actually engaged sooner than other entities, the Houthis, different groups inside the West Bank, inside different, I think Iraq, there was something being fired out as well. I think that was one of the 6 fronts. They weren't ready to go yet, so the gun was jumped slightly with Gaza. If all of these entities would have attacked at the same time, you might have seen a much stronger hit against Israel, but it was staggered. You got one day, and then the next day Hezbollah starts raining fire on the north and they have to evacuate the north, and then the next day you got the Houthis start shooting at things, and it just didn't go off at the same hitch it should have. And if you ever played a MOBA, if your tank doesn't go in first to initiate the fight and they pick off your carry, it just fucks the whole gank up. So they just kind of ruined their gank with bad timing.
Okay. Now to ANCOM, same question. Do you believe that on October 7th, it was Hamas's intention to completely wipe out the Jewish people?
I mean, well, just from a practical standpoint, that was kind of impossible with what they did. But, I think that they were going with what they thought would do the most damage to Israel, and, get there, possibly even to provoke this, something very similar to what we've seen. So, I don't put it past Hamas to have created an attack specifically to gain the ire of Israel in order to, trigger this and gain international sympathy. So yeah, I think that their stated goal of wiping out Jews everywhere is probably accurate. It was impossible to have done in that one particular attack, but it does seem like they were perhaps playing a multi-step game to try and gain more sympathy overall.
Casey, same question. Do you think, Casey, that on October 7th, Hamas's intention was to completely wipe out the Israeli people?
No, I think that most of those people thought they were going to die. They don't have any tanks. They don't have Black Hawks. They don't have artillery. They don't have air support. They have drones you can find at Walmart. What do you mean? That's not actually why. It's not why Hamas exists. They've numerous times said that they will agree to two states. That they don't like Israel and they think they stole their land, but they will agree to 2 states. All of this, like, that this is just sort of this is some group of monster organizations, and they just hate all of Jews for some random reason. They just want to kill all of them. No, they don't have any rights. They don't have freedoms. They don't have a country. They don't. It's just resistance. They do what when you're resisting, you do what you can. Not to say that it's okay to kill civilians, but it's just what happens.
Okay. Going over to you now, Toka. Same question. On October 7th, do you believe that it was Hamas's intention to completely wipe out the Israeli people?
No, I believe from innuendo. No problem. I believe it was more of a to regain territory attack, and they kind of ran into civilians along the way. Because from what I understand, the attack was meant to attack like specific military bases in Israel, along with strategic points of attack that they were like we're gonna go here, and then along the way they ran into the festival, that Nova Festival, I believe it was called, and I believe that's how that ended up taking place. They didn't know that it was there. They weren't going there to target the Nova Festival. It was like an attack, and they were there. But I believe it was more of to regain territory that was taken from the Israel's occupation. That's all for me.
Game Boy, same question to you, sir. Do you believe that it was Hamas's intention to completely wipe out the Israeli people on October 7th?
I don't answer questions by Gorb. You're gonna have to pass it to Ancon.
All right, 10-4. And then finally, actually, no, it's going to go to Koina. Koina, well, actually, I suppose you gave the time to Ancom, right? No. Koina, I'm going to ask you the final of the same question. Do you believe that it was Hamas's intention to completely wipe out the Israeli people on October 7th?
On that day, I really doubt it. It might be like an overall ideological goal of some of the people, but I don't think like the plan was to resolve everything that day. I think overall, I think there was recent polling done in the area. I think it was in May that I read of this year, so just a couple months old, that like there was still, it was like 60 to 70% majority. People polled still supported Hamas to be like the leader of government there. And the same kind of number believe that they would still win through fighting. So take that of what you will.
Sounds good. All right, so now, judges, if you guys have been very patiently and wonderfully listening this whole time, if you gentlemen would be so kind as to, so we'll get to the point where the judges will have their own like opportunity to discuss if they want to, or if they need to go or whatever, that's fine too. But I'm going to be setting up the poll for the audience. I would like to hear sort of a breakdown. Not, again, this is not about your position on the subject, but more about how the debaters performed. And then I would like for you to also tell me what team you believe did the best debate performance, and then which person of all of the debaters, regardless of, like, it doesn't have to be from the winning team, which debater do you think personally was the one who brought it? Lethe, are you all right with going first on that?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, fantastic. Well, then it is yours, and you can take as long as you want. Tell me whenever you're done.
So there seemed to be a reasonable disagreement on how the debate topic was handled, and I think there was a little bit of a disadvantage coming from that position to the team that was on the negative, to the team that was on the positive.
I think you're going for affirmative.
Yeah, the affirmative, that it is genocide. It definitely harmed the arguments going forward, whereas I feel it still was contended with very well. It definitely put some bricks to the arguments. I think Tyler did very well in trying to tear down certain positions, but I also feel that his tactic of trying to defer to information instead of outlining his argument specifically was problematic in discourse. I definitely appreciate Koina's pragmatic approach to what went on. Ancom breaking down the etymology of what we were talking about, the definitions of what was going on, and then trying to walk back the idea of trying to make it analogous versus showing what the actual outcomes of the situation are. Casey, I think, brought it the hardest in the historical arguments and outlining the conditions that are going on, as well as giving visual aids in the process of doing so, even during other people's arguments. I enjoyed it greatly. Game Boy, I appreciate the humanity you brought to the entirety of the conversation.
Yeah!
I wish you would have attacked a bit more of what was going on, but I understand that wasn't your intention to begin with. And Toka, damn it, if you didn't just like right now, like I'm gonna just outline the horrors of what is going on. Like you could call it an appeal to emotion, but at the end of the day, it still gets the point across. So
Stating the facts, man. Yeah.
like going over my notes and everything, I mean, honestly, it's a very difficult decision to make. Do I have to make that decision right now?
Nope. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and give it over to the other judge. He can kind of lay out his thinking. That way the two of y'all get to hear each other before you actually give your final votes. So, Lonzo, if you're ready as well, I like the way that Lethe did that, kind of addressing any particular people. Remember, we're not necessarily talking about your position or your beliefs on the subject at this time. You guys will be able to do that in a few minutes, but right now we're just talking about the debater's performance. So, it's all yours, sir. Take your time.
All right, is my mic okay? Good. It wasn't
Yep,
going green for a second. All right. So completely separated from my opinion on the issue. I on the way that people debated this, I look at this for debating the specific question that was asked of the comparison or one-on-one comparison of if this is a second Holocaust. Now, when listening to the debate, I'll say that in the first part, the very first the introduction to this, when everybody gave out their three-minute argument, and then it was debated against or argued against by another person, I would say that the strongest argument there was from the negative side, because they were arguing specifically, though I feel like it's a much broader and easier thing to argue for, because not only could they argue against it being a genocide, but they could also argue against it being Holocaust Holocaust, what's the word I'm looking for? Equivalent,
analogous.
Yeah.
Adjacent.
I guess adjacent is probably a better word for that. But basically, they only have to argue that. Whereas if you're arguing for it, you have to be arguing a literal comparison to the Holocaust. Whereas a lot of them were arguing a comparison of a genocide. Now, I do understand that point that was being made, especially. I believe that Tyler was giving an amazing fight against that, and at least the idea of the genocide. Whereas I still see by the points that were made from the positive side that is the genocide comparison. However, what was very well made by Game Boy and Coin was that the Holocaust comparison was not very well made. There was no well one-to-one establishment, such as seeing things that happened directly in the Holocaust and then comparing them directly to the things that happened, what is happening with Palestine right now. I do think there was a great point made for genocide by the positive team, but I don't think there was many points made directly towards the Holocaust, which was the main talking point of this, the whole question that was being asked in the first place. And I feel like that was lost a lot in the thinking of the genocidal comparison, or the actions of Israel, or the things being done to the Palestinian people overall. That was lost in the discussion due to that. So,
okay. All right, good stuff. Well, you know what? So I'm actually going to hold mine until after the two of y'all have voted, because I don't want to weigh in and persuade y'all, but I'm going to give y'all my personal thoughts on this as well eventually. Lethe, having listened to that, are you okay with going first? Which team do you award the actual best as a debate? And then second of all, who do you think was the best single performance?
I mean, my fellow judge pretty much laid it out. If it was a Holocaust, was definitely proven. This was not the belief of the panel that's here, and so I'm going to have to say the side that was saying it is not a Holocaust is the winner of this.
Okay. And who do you think was the single best interlocutor on the panel?
I got to give it to Casey.
Okay. Casey, do you feel like telling us why, or if you don't want to lay it out, that's fine, but I'd like to hear.
I mean, for the most part, the way Casey was laying out the arguments, putting down the history, outlining conditions, all of that wasn't necessarily defeated by the arguments that were put to Casey, and even when cross-examined, none of it fell apart. And like I said, the visual aids that went along with it just made it all the more magical.
Okay, good shit. And Mr. Lonzo, same question to you, sir. First of all, not about who you agree with on an ethical manner. This is a question about the word Holocaust. Which team do you think defended their position better? And then also, who do you think was the single best interlocutor?
Like I said earlier, due to who argued the specific point the most, or specifically argued against it, I'm going to have to give this to the negative side. And when it comes to the best argument, the best person in this debate who argued their point, I would have gave it to Casey, but I feel like a big part. I'm gonna give it to Tyler because of his argument points. The ability to pull up this information immediately while doing this. But again, I think it was a broader and easier point to argue since it's a broader category. Since you can argue against the genocide and the Holocaust comparison at the same time. I feel as if Casey should have, though she was great at providing information on screen for the argument, I feel as if the best choice would have been to show direct quotes from people, especially people who have studied the Holocaust, because there's a lot of figures who have, Jewish figures who have studied the Holocaust, who have made the comparisons, but you didn't show that. That would have been in a debate or showing into this was thousands of people who you wanted to make that point to. The best way to make that point would have been to show that comparison that's been made by plenty of scholars already in the past who show the comparison to the Holocaust, but you didn't do that. So I'm giving it to Tyler.
Okay. That's
a fair point. I'll give it a Tyler.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So now I'm gonna do, because we're still got a couple minutes left on the clock here, and right now the poll is tied, but it doesn't really matter because at this point the actual win is going to go to the negative side. Mostly, what I want to do is I want to justify my prompt because I feel like my prompt was attacked,
unjustifiable.
Which is fine, but I want to explain because there were some things that I expected to see, some things that I didn't see, some things that I hoped to see, in fact. But I would also like to say that I intentionally worded and used that word because everybody keeps having very clearly defined definitions about the other term that everybody's using, and I haven't heard that many people using this term. And when I did a little bit of quick research, I saw that this is not as clearly defined of a term. This is not a official term. But whenever you look into the definition is, my understanding, at least according to I think whatever the internet told me, I think it's actually derived from a Jewish word for catastrophe, which.
Who said Greek?
Oh yeah, somebody else said Greek, or from Latin, which maybe it is too, or maybe
it's Greek.
It's Greek. Okay, so
yeah, it was originally from Greek, referring to a like a burnt offering.
Well, so and that's
but you could also make the argument that that's from like Jewish or possibly Yiddish, just because like maybe that's like a Septuagint translation for burnt offerings. So
perhaps. Well, so either way, again, this I don't remember. I just Googled it real quick, and it's what maybe it's just the AI told me. So whatever. Either way, the point was that it was a word for catastrophe, but it didn't have a clear-cut definition. So I asked myself, why is it that they called it that the first time? Why was it a Holocaust? Because there's a nuclear Holocaust. Is this a Holocaust? Can we all agree on that term since we can't agree on the other term? Like, I wanted to hear you guys lay that out, but I was shocked that it wasn't until somebody kind of called it out, and it was the very last, and it was props to ANCOM for being the first one. I feel like really tried to clearly dig into the term Holocaust and define it. So again, whenever you brought that up, that was like, ooh, snap, we're at the question I personally was interested in hearing debated. But that said, debate is debate. Y'all took it where you wanted to, and I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed hearing y'all go back and forth. I do apologize that I was not more clear about the format or the fact that this was going to be a little bit more organized like that, but I hope that people we'll come back to that in a second. I hope everybody kind of enjoyed it, but I'm also down for feedback. I liked the fact that we were able to ask the questions from the audience and you guys be able to participate that way. I'm not going to give a single person shout out. I'm just going to say that it was all around great, and it was definitely fun to get to see it happen in a more structured manner, but then also to get to see you guys operating as just a conversation, a group, and seeing who took control. I had several people in chat as well as direct messaging me about the fact that it was getting off topic, and it's like, well, yeah, this is the part where it's allowed to go wherever the fuck it wants. So again, I enjoyed the entire conversation, but as a debate, as a debate, I would have loved to have heard it stay more on the actual topic, on the actual question, on the prompt itself. And with that said, I now see that I still, because this is going to carry us into the actual open conversation, I would like to ask some questions of my own, because I still don't fully understand are we defining as a Holocaust. Like, is this not a cataclysmic destruction of an area? Like, there is no inherent term genocide in the word Holocaust. So why is this not a term that we can agree this is equal amount? Like, again, we're not trying to compare. We're not saying it's the same. We're saying that it is also a Holocaust.
Can I actually ask a question about
just
that
a quick
as
thing.
well? Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Sorry, I just want to interject one thing. So, the Hebrew word for what we call the Holocaust is Shoah, which is Hebrew for catastrophe.
Okay, so this
which
is probably the connection.
Yeah, which is interesting because the term that the Arabs tend to use in Arabic for, you know, what they consider to be happening in Palestine is the Nakba, which is the Arabic word for catastrophe. So effectively, they're using the same word for these two events.
Got you. So, and to be clear, that was kind of the other thing, was it's like, if we are like everybody, what I loved to hear was the overlap of morality. And as far, like I said, I would love to get into the minutia of like debate tactics and little parts where I was like, ooh, I wish you'd have pulled the trigger there. Or like, again, my notebook is like as though I was Joe Rogan watching a UFC match. It's like, ooh, why didn't you? Ooh, I wish you would have. But again, I'm not going to go through all of that. It's more about the fact that I enjoyed watching as y'all did the sword fighting, and yeah, that was part of it. Was I wish that people would have actually drilled in more on that part. So, anyways, it looks like at the end of the day we have the MVPs going to Tyler. Oh, yes, sir, Lethe.
So literally, I almost gave ANCOM MVP just for bringing up the etymology of the term Holocaust. Because that,
Yes.
if we had centered the entire conversation on that, ANCOM would have taken it away, hands down.
And if this would have been the kind of conversations we've done historically, I would have kept drawing it. I would have kept fucking lassoing it back. And well, why isn't it? And what's the difference? And et cetera, which is what I'm fixing to do, because we can all agree. I'm sorry, I got distracted because damn you, marijuana. The thing that I loved the most was the overlap of moral ought. I just heard that term the other day and I thought, wow, that's fucking great. I'm going to use that. Like we all say, well, it's pretty clear no matter where you stand that one team in this clearly needs to say, okay, hold on. That's enough, right? That's we can all pretty much agree with that. You don't have to talk about what happened on October 7th to discuss what's happening right now. Like everybody always says, we don't know enough about the history of a situation. And that may be true. I don't live there. I don't know the history and I don't care about the history. What I do care about is where's enough? Like we as a human species at some point should be like, hey, and I don't know, maybe I'm being misled. I'm very willing to accept that possibly I'm being somehow manipulated by the media. But my understanding is that the media is doing the exact opposite of persuade. Like the media seems to be the ones who are persuading me that it's not as bad as it's being told. And I've heard a couple of whistleblowers lately who are making it sound like it's actually that bad. So again, I don't need to talk about what's happened over the course of the last 2,000 years to say that, hey, can somebody say that's enough? So that was kind of why I wanted to have this conversation. And it was good to hear that everybody here agrees with that. So we don't have to have that conversation. It's more of a conversation of what do we call this? Because in the first time they used that word, a common thread was that everybody said, well, we didn't know what was going on, or we didn't know what was happening, or they look back over their shoulder and they're like, well, fuck, we should have seen that coming, shouldn't we? And that's kind of my framing on this was, and had I been debating this, what I would have done is like, can we agree that this could, like, is this, they didn't know it was the first one when it was the first one. Is it a very real possibility that this is the second one and we don't know that it's the second one yet? Like we haven't gotten the fucking memo and we haven't all agreed on a term for the history books yet. So what are we going to call this? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lonzo. I'm done.
Thank-
That was me gish galloping, monologuing because I sat here silently
Mm-hmm.
listening for 2 hours. And thank you very much for your patience. So, congratulations to the winning team. I'm going to open this up. Anybody who wants to jump in from chat, and for the record, I also want to say that I hope y'all enjoyed this. And again, I'm dead
Who
serious
was the
about.
winning team?
Oh, the winning team was you guys. Yeah, sorry. The negative against the prompt that we cannot at this time call it a genocide. Although you're about to have me ask you questions and get scrutiny from other people because, excuse me, Holocaust. Did I say genocide? Whoopsie.
You said genocide.
Please,
Yeah.
please don't clip that.
Congratulations.
Before we get too off
Tasty.
topic, I did want
Yes.
to ask: do we all agree that the Holocaust was a genocide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
wouldn't, at the end of the day, you be able to make a comparison to any genocide that is also?
I wish you would have.
like,
I wish you would have done that 15
Right.
minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, would you say
I
every
also
genocide
smoked
raises
blunt,
to a
so-
Holocaust?
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
Would you say that every genocide that's happened in the world raises to the Holocaust then?
No, I'm saying comparable to.
A
So
square
like
is a
Okay.
rhombus. it doesn't mean
rhyming,
a rhombus
as we
is a
say.
square. You know.
So here's what we're doing. Like literally what we're doing here is saying that because this particular word was used for this particular event, now no event can be defined in the same
Yeah,
way
yeah.
as this particular event, and that's where the failure to
Well, if you use
I
that word,
think-
it
I
gets
think
compared to
any-
that event.
Yeah,
I think any
yeah.
genocide could lead to a Holocaust.
Because if I said
think
like
that
we
the-
did a 9/11, you'd think 9/11. You know, like it would
But if-
evoke that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
but 9/11 's a
I
day.
treat
Yeah.
I was treating Holocaust as the name of an event. I brought up the etymology in an effort to kind of save what I thought was not the best of comparisons, because like if we're talking about the term Holocaust as like a more general thing, like something is a Holocaust as opposed to that was the Holocaust, the difference between that definite and indefinite article there, it makes it a little bit more difficult, because ultimately like the term Holocaust wasn't even used immediately after the Second World War. It started popping up in popularity in the late 50s, right? So this is a decade and a half after the event, and like it was so it was given this particular name, much as World War One became
was
known
it?
as World War One sometime later.
Once there was a number 2, of course. We didn't call
Exactly.
it World War One when it was. Yeah, that's what. So
Yeah.
so when did the word Holocaust start getting used to define the events of the concentration camps and the Jewish?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing here is it was more commonly associated with the Nazi extermination of Jews during sometime in the late 50s.
Okay, so and then the other thing, and with the argument that I actually was going to go with personally, and for what it's worth, Cosmic, if you're out there, you're welcome to jump back in as well.
Get out of here, Gorp.
No.
Hi, Gorp.
The other thing that I was actually going to say that would be making it different is that in the first time around, there was no aggression from one side, whereas in this case there was some aggression, but I don't know that that's necessarily definitive of being a Holocaust. Is it? Like, if one side completely wipes out the other side, like we would refer to it as a nuclear holocaust if all of the major powers shot off all of their fucking missiles and wiped everything off the world, that would be called a nuclear holocaust, right? Because
That's a fair point. So sorry, I found something really interesting which I didn't know about before this, and I kind of wish I'd done more. I had focused my research more in this direction, but apparently there was a diary entry in from a U.S. Army or a U.S. soldier in 1945, where he described, "We are in a nightmarish Holocaust," which tells us that like the meaning of Holocaust before it was attributed, and I think this is kind of like one of these language shifting things, is like it usually referred to large destruction events, usually involving fire, because it was a burnt offering sort of thing where it came from. And so like we have applied it directly to this one event as the Holocaust, but like going back to like the nuclear Holocaust, I'm pretty sure that term actually originates from the same root as like the soldier writing "We are in a nightmarish Holocaust." It's the idea of, you know, fire burning everything, and both of these terms, nuclear Holocaust referring to, you know, the world burning, and the Holocaust referring to the extermination of Jews, both of these have kind of marched forward in our language in parallel, and I don't think that a lot of thought has been put into the fact that these are actually referencing very different things, and I say very different not in like, you know, both are massive deaths, but like in the actual senses by which they were brought into the consciousness.
What I'm kind of seeing here is the pre-World War II definition of Holocaust was generally just described as a death of a large group of people, which would essentially be interchangeable with genocide. And
or what's happening in Palestine, right? Like, I
felt
like that was the well, yeah, my
but
thoughts
like
lost, but
okay, so let me ask hypothetically to the judges.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, actually, real quick, yeah. Let Gorps because he's been chilling out in the chat, ready to fucking fire guns. So come at it, bro.
Okay. I am amazed that none of you guys even touched on this, but alas, we're gonna do it very briefly right now. The Holocaust.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
The Holocaust was a genocide. We all agree on this. You guys all already agreed on this. Okay. I personally don't think that we should be having a debate about who's the genocide against who was worse. I think that is a fucking bullshit debate from the get-go. A genocide is a goddamn genocide.
Okay.
So if we're going to accept that premise, this is not the second Holocaust. This is like the fucking 10th Holocaust or some shit like that. All right.
Yeah,
I can't
fair.
count them, but this is another Holocaust.
Yeah.
What do we think?
And yeah, and like I was gonna ask the judges hypothetically, like if we had kind of established the like that we were talking about it more linguistically than rather than comparing one specific event to another specific event, like would that have changed kind of how you went on the judging of you know which team kind of made that argument better? Purely hypothetically, I'm just curious.
You would have destroyed. I'm just letting you know.
All right, cool.
That's what I thought I was gonna hear. That's what
you guys
I
had
was.
Casey on your side. You were down from the beginning. I'm sorry.
That's crazy. Damn. You not got nothing in response to that, Casey?
It's
Damn.
expected. It was expected.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's
there's-
not like
there's-
a Holocaust,
there's
it's
existing
just-
shit there.
It's just kind of Holocaust-y, you know?
Holocaust-ish.
Yeah.
Like
So
perpendicular.
It's giving Holocaust.
Yeah.
So again,
It's giving
the-
Holocaust, it's giving mass extermination.
Like Holocaust
not-
and Palestine, like right here, just next to each other, but like just not intersecting. That's all it is.
yeah.
Well, I'm not letting horseriders go on this. I think everyone would agree that like Holocaust is like we sort of view that as like a super genocide. Just like this is sort of how we see the word. I think most people would agree with that. It's a super gen. This is how it's used or whatever. So it was a very tough prompt. Absolutely.
See, like
No,
I said,
just see it as
and
the
that's
most
fine.
Famous genocide.
Yeah, I would take literally what Gorps just said. I thank you, Gorps.
Yes.
I
And this
really
is
like
this is another
Hangom.
thing with the flexibility of language, right? We all say words, but what those words dig up in our minds, the ideas and concepts they bring up is different for all of us. So it gets
That's
really
what rhetoric
messy.
is for.
Well said.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
What I really like, what Ancom was trying to make a parallel to, was the genocide of the Native Americans, because that was a large-scale event over a reasonably long period of time that is almost comparable. Like it, pretty much like the Trail of Tears was insane on its own. So like I would say, the Trail of Tears like literally could be an event in itself, but not a descriptor. The same as Holocaust is a word in and of itself that has a meaning that we're applying to an event. So I think that's where these things could have become more comparable, but we're not going to weigh which had a larger effect on any amount of people.
They also were, so they're also systematically like put in place the same way. I mean, whenever they expanded west, they put people into these smaller and smaller areas, which wiped out a lot of them. The only difference I can really see in the way that they went about exterminating them was that these people died a lot from the diseases that were given to them and spread. Whereas with the Palestinians, while they're being pushed into this smaller area, especially in the West Bank right now, but even in Gaza, being pushed to these smaller areas, they're not dying from diseases, they're dying from being carpet bombed and having their water supply cut off or having their hospitals blown up. Which is honestly,
I would say,
because it's more direct.
I would describe.
I would say you could make the
famine right now as a
comparison.
disease.
I would say you could make the comparison that Gaza is more like a direct genocide, whereas the West Bank is more like an indirect genocide, where like Native Americans, where it's more about being displaced and pushed out, and having your children be adopted out to white families, that sort of thing. Like they're two different kinds of genocides, and we just happen to be seeing both types executed against roughly the same people. The only difference is how and where.
I actually would not call the West Bank a genocide, but
Fair enough.
Definitely an occupation.
That's
occupation.
Wars, personally.
I would call it an
It's just-
occupation and ethnic cleansing
War?
campaign, but
Yeah,
ethnic
I
cleansing
agree.
does not
Ethnic
necessarily mean
cleansing.
genocide.
Damn, I actually agree with Corpse.
Ah.
I disagree
I would
with
say
him.
that
Wait, I
ethnic
wanna-
cleansing. I don't know.
Did you
I
say
think I would
unjust
say
war?
that ethnic cleansing is a form of genocide. So
It can be, but
I
it's not
sort of
necessarily. I go by the UN definition of the crime of genocide. So
Average debate
convention.
destroyer. Did you say unjust
Yeah.
war?
I said just war. It just is
Just
really
war?
war. A 7-front war where they were attacked.
So, literally, you could have war with non-combatants.
This was in my introduction. I mean, who are the non-combatants? The combatants dress like civilians, hide in civilian crowds, sacrifice civilians, enlist civilians. They force children into their ranks. Like, how do we know
Hold on.
who's who?
I got a question for you. I saw a picture today of a like 6-ish-year-old Palestinian girl who had a bullet in the back of her head, miraculously survived. I know Toka follows the exact same channel I saw this on. Miraculously survived. Is that a combatant?
No.
Quick question.
Okay,
Was that
so
the one
we
they
can
claimed was fired from a
understand-
drone?
I'd have to go back and check. I saw this morning.
Because what
like the
areas are
one that I
drones firing
saw.
guns?
The one that I saw was like that little girl was part of a group of 3 children who were playing, and they all ended up getting shot. I don't think there was anything about a drone there, but like I didn't see that specifically.
No, I know that this is me being somewhat persuaded by propaganda or whatever. Perhaps, maybe I don't know, but it seemed persuasive. Either way, I saw a picture. And another one of the motivations for this prompt was I saw a picture of a child in Palestine, and the emaciated, etc. The condition that this child was in, and the first thing that I thought was that looks like pictures from Auschwitz. So that was one of the other compelling reasons for me to make this comparison, at least in my mind. Was like I even thought about, but I figured that would be a little bit unnecessary. But having a comparison of the two pictures side by side. Now, I have heard supposedly, or the debunking is that these pictures have to do with. Like, I'm not even gonna articulate what the fucking, because it's that disgusting. There are people who try to debunk those pictures, but there's also, like I said, a whistleblower that I just heard interviewed. Has everybody seen the video of the berm at the food site where they're shooting and somebody's woo-wooing and saying, "Ooh, yeah, I think you got one." Yeah, boy. Have we all seen that video?
I have not.
Okay, so
the articles about them
GHF
shooting at
I'm not. If somebody can drop the link for him or message it to him, please don't put that shit in my chat. Not because I don't want it seen, but just because I just don't want to think about it anymore, and I have to already. But there's also a link. So the guy who filmed that was a Green Beret, a retired Green Beret, who was contracting with the Gaza Humanitarian Fund. I'm not going to put words in his mouth or try to direct quote him any more than just to say that one of his anecdotal stories, although he has photos and receipts to back all of it up, including the video that we all saw, but this is really fucking gut-wrenching, so forgive me, and I'm not, I'm not trying to hyperbolize anything. This is just from a first-hand account. There was a young child, somewhere around the age of 8, who was picking up scraps from one of these humanitarian aid sites. And this former Green Beret said and took pictures of this kid and said that the kid was kissing their hands in gratitude for literally the scraps that were left over after all of the adult males had Hunger Games styled ransacked the aid pile. And then as the group was being herded out of the site, there were individuals who were firing into the crowd to herd them more quickly. And one of the people who got shot and killed in that crowd was the young child who had just been kissing this Green Beret's hand. So his account and all of that is available. You can find it if you just do a little look up. I've seen him interviewed by multiple people. When I hear shit like that, it's hard to not think, regardless of who's involved, that it seems like it's got intent. And there's more and more of those types of stories coming out where it doesn't seem like anybody who has any sort of power or control in the situation is seeking to in any way de-escalate or regulate or control what is taking place over there. Does anybody disagree with what I just said? I'm sorry, I know it was a monologue.
It was facts.
I think that's been the intention from the start. I mean, I believe that's why Netanyahu, in the first place, believed that the last person who was in power, was being too friendly with the Palestinians and allowing the group that we spoke on, the Palestinian. It was
Yellow.
We all
Fatah?
said different things.
Palestinian Authority.
Palestinian Authority, thank you. That they were allowing them to get into office or be the leadership in the Gaza Strip would have been worser for them, and he hated that idea, which is why he pushed for funding Hamas, is because I believe that he wanted them to attack so that he could then have a reason to go and go in and finish what he already was doing to them. Why do you think he put them on a diet for the past 17 years? To speed up the process once they did cut off all this food going into Gaza so that they could starve them out quicker. I mean, he literally said, we're putting the Gazans on a diet for 17 years. And then you cut off the food supply for months, and then you allow a little bit of food to come in. They were already on the verge of starving, and it wasn't Hamas taking this food then. They weren't claiming that then, so why are they claiming that now? It was ridiculous. I mean, they've been doing it for that whole time, and then on top of that, with the way that he has set this up is now even the food that is able to reach these people, they gunned them down at those sites. It instills a fear of going to it. And who are the people that are going to most likely go to even try and fight for food at these sites? Probably Hamas. So if anything, this whole targeting of people at these food sites would only inspire that type of thing. Hamas isn't even the only group that they have to worry about, because they even talked about them working with like gangs and stuff like that are inside of the Gaza Strip that they fund, that they help out. I mean, it's a bit weird that these people are there constantly doing this, but we never hear about them going to the aid sites and taking it over or killing all the IDF soldiers there when they speak about how many there is. And if he was trying to wipe out Hamas as he claims to be, then how does 50,000, so far the last number I've seen, which I'm sure it's much higher than that, but if that is the case, 50,000 deaths, how much of that is actually Hamas then? I mean, if you've blown up
to 60,000 officially now.
Yeah, 60,000.
If you've blown up every hospital, how many of those hospitals were Hamas hiding under?
Every one of them, that was proven. And again, like with these people,
How many were proven?
Every single one of them, they've released images
What proof
for.
did you see? They've released images. What proof did you see?
Every single one of them. They've released proof that there's Hamas armed inside the hospital. Currently, there's 2 hospitals operating inside Gaza built by the UN. When the hostages were released to the Israelis, armed guards, armed militants with machine guns brought them out of the hospital. They were inhabiting at the time. They had full control over it. Like, it's been proven.
Now, what was the other point they made? They said they were hiding hostages.
That we don't ever see the Hamas attacking these convoys. We see that all the time. They just killed 20 aid workers one week, 15 aid workers the week before. They've been attacking these convoys that have been coming in over and over and over. And they're also
I'm gonna make a second point on
their own people.
Wait.
Like,
Do you think that
I mean,
anybody who
Israel's
attacks
attacked
these
aid convoys
are
too,
Hamas?
so I don't.
Do you think that every single random group of people that shoots up one of these convoys, do you think that they're all Hamas?
No.
Yeah,
I do have a question.
Okay, so
I just
what
have a
makes you think that
question.
all of these exist?
I never
Yeah,
said
what's
that.
up? Welcome in, Game Boy. Hey, hang on, everybody. Game Boy has a quick question.
No, I never claimed
I'm
every
sorry,
single
boy
thing
band.
was-
Not Game Boy, boy
I
band.
never said that.
Too many boys.
I just wanted to know why it mattered that Hamas was inside of the hospital or near civilians at all. Why does that like
Rules of engagement.
make it? No,
Yes,
because I was in the military.
That I looked up
And
the rule of
no, I
engagement.
get that, but again, the law doesn't make it okay, and we're learning that right now in real time. And so just because the law said it was okay to blow up a hospital because some guys with guns were in it doesn't mean that those 30 kids in the same, wing didn't deserve that death either.
Or they
That's
don't
all I'm
deserve
asking.
that death.
Well,
Also, logically,
but I'm just bringing that just bringing that point up because that you were like, oh, the Hamas was in the hospital, so the hospital got blown up. Yeah, no, the hospital shouldn't have been blown up in the first place. There are lots of
I want to make a very, very tiny quick note. The Nova Festival had IDF soldiers in it. So does that
Also
make
true.
the Nova Festival a valid target?
The Nova Festival
Yeah.
it had soldiers guarding it, so that made it a valid
No.
target for them to
I'm talking about the
civilians
people that were there.
intentionally?
We're talking about
hospitals.
ravers. We're talking about ravers in a society.
They
with
didn't bomb
forced
it. They
conscription.
went in and systematically killed
Right.
people one by
Well,
one. This is
replace. They don't
dropping
have bombs, so they spray the fire instead. They know there's some soldiers in there somewhere. Probably like
okay.
at least half.
The
of them.
IDF
So it's
does
okay
not
by your
dress
logic.
as civilians. They don't.
No, when
fight
they're-
in combat.
Wait.
These people
The
were
IDF
clothing
members.
civilians.
IDF
They were
members.
going into civilian homes, tying people up and burning them alive.
Hold on, I'm talking specifically about Nova. There were IDF members
me
in the
too.
crowd at Nova, non-uniformed, because
Yeah.
you are living in a society where everybody is IDF at a certain point, for the most part, at a certain point between you're 18 and 22. Talking,
No, I mean, that's a good
there's
point.
Many IDF soldiers there.
It's not.
Now, I am not saying the Nova attack was okay. By your logic, it is, because they're hiding amongst civilians, so we can attack
So you
that
can't
entire
be. Once
site.
you're a former soldier for like 3 years.
No,
of
I'm
your
saying they're
life,
not.
you're a
I'm
soldier for
just
life
saying they're
now,
not on
and
duty.
even if you're
I'm just
walking
saying they're
around
not
in
on
plain
duty.
clothes
I'm not
attending a
saying.
hospital, you're
I'm
not.
not
Okay.
saying.
That's not how the rules of war work.
So
I'm
they
not
were active
saying every
military.
former
That's not-
soldier.
that's-
I'm talking about
that's not how
active
the
duty
rules
that
of
are not
war
work.
currently.
Can I just ask the question of if they
Oh, yeah,
bombed
Alonzo.
hospitals to deal with Hamas, and their point originally was, because this was a quote from Netanyahu and from other people in defense, was that they were hiding hostages in these bunkers under the hospitals. Which, may I say, if you were hiding hostages in these hospitals and Hamas was holding hostages there, why would you bomb the hospital?
They didn't make those claims. They made the claims that they were staging military operations out of those hospitals. We saw that a children's hospital had a weapons cache.
Well, they've also
inside of it,
shot
not
their own
underneath it.
hostages.
An American
believe
school
that
is
Israel
now
has nuclear
hosting
weapons.
a battalion of Green Beret, and Russia wants to bomb it. That's the same thing, right?
What do you mean
An
by
American
hosting?
school.
Like,
Just civilians, right? Like,
What do
does
you
that
mean
make it
by
okay?
hosting?
We've
Are
got
they
we've got
claiming to
military hold
speak?
up in the I don't know,
no,
the
It's
gymnasium.
not the same thing because our
Yeah, it is.
military wears uniforms. They don't.
Hey,
dress
dude, no,
as
they don't.
civilians. Yes, they do. When they're fighting,
No, they
They
don't.
wear uniforms.
There are dude,
They
there are
fighting
members in our
standing
uniform.
army.
No,
Yes,
dude.
yes, you
there are
asked a
people
question,
in
now
our
I get to
military
answer it.
that
Hold
take
on,
their
hold on,
ranks
hold on,
and
hold on,
names
hold on.
off.
You asked a question, now I'm going to answer it. We have a standing
Well, you're answering
functioning.
incorrectly.
Hold on, we have a standing functioning military. So does most of the nations in the world. This terrorist entity is not a standing functioning military. They don't stand out and fight battles.
That's not true,
They
actually.
dress like,
We-
again, they dress like civilians. They hide amongst civilians. They hide in civilian infrastructure, and they pretend to be civilians. They fire rockets out of the back of schools. They
You know
are the
Americans
ones to
do that
blame
too,
for
right?
Making those viable military targets.
We have special forces doing that in South America right now.
Okay. Then
Okay,
those are viable
it's not
military targets.
okay. So my point is though is. And no,
Even if
you're
they're
not
in a
And-
hospital?
No, especially if
So
they're in a
your
hospital, they're
whataboutism
not.
point-
Because if they're not,
hang on,
hold on.
boy, man.
If
Let me ask him. Ask him the question. If those people, those undercover agents that you just said are viable targets, if they are currently getting treatment at a hospital in that country that they are undercover in, do you think that it is
No.
legitimate a target to bomb that
You can
that
give
hospital?
treatment. You cannot turn it into an area that stages military operations. You can give
Wait,
treatment.
but one of
the
Israel's
rules up there. You guys
excuses
can all
for their
go read the
hospital
rule
strike
of war.
was
But
that
by
the
your
Hamas guy was
It's
getting
in my
treatment. That was
document. You can read
literally
it.
one
Yeah,
of
that's-
their excuses.
By your
Yeah,
standard,
it's
all they
not
need to
optimized
do is
stuff.
show that there's a
Steve.
gun in a hospital and then they can
No,
bomb all
it's
the
not.
hospitals.
I
That's
already
your
gave you-
standard.
no, it's
That's
not.
actually
You're-
literally
that's-
your
you're
standard.
just lying
Clarify,
again.
though.
You've just been
That's
making
not
To
what it
shit
said.
fly
clarify
all
though,
the way.
our
It's just
military
lying.
does operate often without uniforms, and even on our own bases, there are certain members of the military and special classes that remove ranks and names. Like, it's not unheard of at all.
Yeah, we have
They
special
disguise
forces.
themselves.
This
But
is
also,
the
to
entire
hold on, real
unit.
quick to touch on another point. I'll stop talking for a moment because I've been talking a lot. We are taught in basic training what a legal combatant is, and what you've described is not that. There are very specific
That's
rules
cool.
to
I got
engagements, and
citations.
before you're even allowed to take the safety off of your weapon, you have to go through 5
Your
different
lived
steps. Dude.
experience versus my citation. I'm gonna stick with my citation every time. Thanks.
Dude,
your
your
citation?
citation. What's your citation?
It's in my document. I linked in the chat.
Oh, it's in your doc.
Wait, hold on. Me being in the military is worth less than the paper
Yes,
you have
your
on,
lived
on your
experience,
computer.
and you just saying this is the way it is because I say
Every
so
time I go to your
is
doc,
different
it's-
No, I'm
than the
saying that's
rules.
what it is.
Yeah, somebody go with my
My
citation.
my anecdotes. Got
Yes,
it. Okay.
your lived experience.
Horseradish, would you like to
There's nothing in the
verify?
Epstein files because the government
I'm
said
not
so.
downing you in
Oh,
the
yeah.
military. I'm just saying you don't know
Okay,
what I'm
cool.
talking about.
Cool, but you
said that
obviously don't know what the fuck
population-
you're talking
poor
about.
You said the
person talking about
population of Gaza
economics,
was,
like, just
was
'cause you
going
served in the
down.
military doesn't
You said the
mean
boat
you
was going
understand the
down,
rules.
and in your own document it says, I mean, it was going up. In your own document it says it's going down.
I already
Y-
said
your
that.
own-
You
you
didn't listen to
linked
my
it.
whole point.
So,
In
all
your
right.
own
You
document,
So his
didn't listen to my
documents
whole
are
point.
false.
You didn't listen to my whole point. I said deaths versus
Cut.
births, not people
Cut.
moving out of the country.
All right, he's
I
You
using
said
said the
faulty
population
information.
was going up
introduction.
in Gaza.
Yeah.
That's what you said. The population was going up. I looked at your stupid document, and the only thing
You
related
didn't
said the
listen to my
opposite.
point because you're misquoting it. I said if
And
we
it wasn't even
ignore
the quoting
people
Hamas, it was
leaving
quoting
the
me.
region
Let him
to flee the war, there was a caveat given that you're ignoring. If you read more than just the headline, you'll see the reason the population is decreased is because 100,000 people have left. If we ignore those people and just look at births
Why did
versus
those people
deaths,
leave?
which is what I said in my introduction, that you're improperly
still
misquoting
going down.
to get a shitty point again. I mean, again, you're not paying
Here,
attention.
Palestinian
would
Central
they
Bureau
leave?
according to statistics says
Why would they
population
leave?
has,
Yeah, why
has
did they
fallen
leave?
by 160,000 with over 100,000 leaving the
That's
enclave. Israel
exactly
says
what
that
I
is
said.
fabricated, whatever. So even when you
exactly
quote
what I
this,
said.
So only
even when you
100,000
quote
people.
this, and you minus the 100,000 that left, this population still went down.
No, it went up.
This is your fucking site.
No,
Again,
he said
here,
160,000 people.
I need to read
And then
it.
100,000
Population
left.
has,
Yeah, how many was
Hey, I got a question.
has
So every
fallen.
time,
Total population fallen by 160.
so every time Hamas, like every time a hospital was blown up, did Hamas like just scurry over to the next hospital and like hide under it and like build another
That's
operation
exactly
base and then like move to the next one after that
blow
one
up
got blown
another
up?
one. You're right.
All I got was
They were just
Forty
opening up
something
hospitals once a week for a month, bro.
Just like that guy that can be in 3 places at once. Like,
They never thought about like, hey, houses
house
might be better.
So the thing is, it's
They-
not a legal
bro,
target.
Israel gave
and
a 3D render. It must be true. Come on.
It's not a legal target if there are civilians there, and that's the thing. Like
it
you can't
is.
It
even
is.
you can't even shoot. Hold on. The thing is though is that they didn't have the proof of it, and that's what I'm getting at. You can't even shoot at a car approaching a base of a military until like they break X many rules. Like you
Yes,
can't
You
even.
can throw a grenade. You can't even throw a
Again-
grenade into a room full of civilians if there's people. If there's
Thank you. There are very clear and defined rules to the rules of engagement, and yes, it is defined by each different theater of war. But you can't just say, "Hey, it's a legal target" because there's military members in it.
Yeah,
That
just
is
real-
not. That is
real quick
not
question.
how that works. No, that's not how that works.
Look
They're
up
not a
engagement.
military.
It does how it works. It depends on your
That is-
rules of engagement. It depends on what rules you fall under. The rules of engagement in the United States military is more strict than what the UN rules are. So if
And I would also like to say real quick that that there's also a lot of independent contractors being used. for the record. But
Sure, and
real
they do
quick, I
follow-
just want to interject because Ancom actually made a really great point that I liked whenever, and I forgot to mention this in the debate analysis, but about the flooding the market as a response to the argument that we are trying to, Hamas is stealing the food and selling it to the people. The best way to kill a black market is to flood the market, right? Like, if that was actually the case, make food not a commodity as a solution. And that would absolutely be within their power to do, as I think, I don't remember who it was that outlined this, but somebody mentioned that there's available aid. It's not a lack of available aid, it's a lack of allowing them in. Thing is, the argument is they don't want Hamas to have access to the food. But does that not mean that they are still trying to starve out Hamas? Exactly. Like, they're unintentionally starving the civilians to intentionally starve out Hamas. Isn't that still definitionally a war crime?
No, because they're also feeding the civilians too.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
The only reason that
It is.
UN food is
No.
sitting on the
It
border
doesn't get
right
rid of
now
the
is
initial.
not.
It is
The only
saying
reason
I'm sorry
that-
doesn't get rid of the infraction.
The only reason
If
that
they're still
food
serving-
is sitting on the border right now is because the UN is refusing to work with Israel to distribute it. There's tons of
They
food
keep
sitting
firing
outside.
at
Hasn't this
the
already
aid
been
distribution centers.
debated? Isn't there already like arrests out for Netanyahu, like warrants out for his arrest?
ICC doesn't have
Like, this has already been debated by international court, but
ICC.
yes, he knows better.
The U.S. has already threatened to sanction them, and they're already not going after Netanyahu anymore.
So again,
Yeah, the U.S. Right.
Can we
Like, what's authority do they
quickly
have?
mention that it is against American law to provide military aid to a unit that's doing war crimes, given the fact that at least 2 Israeli officials have been accused and have warrants out for their arrest of war crimes? Do you think that we should at least be a little bit skeptical on sending U.S. military aid?
Did you watch?
UN also labeled them.
Did you watch the debate at all? Because the only people that have done an investigation into that was the 2024 State Department under Joe Biden that found there was no proof to just the claims that war crimes are going on. There's no proof that a war crime is actually happening based on the United
year
States
ago?
investigation.
Yes.
A year ago?
Okay, but the United States.
Also, the American orgs that did that were silenced by what's his face.
Oh, yeah, they were silenced and they were lying.
It's just
Yeah,
a
that's
blanket.
it, you got
It's
it.
a blanket.
So the
No, the
investigation
orgs were
is
not
faulty,
lying.
and you don't need proof for that, right? Do you have any
That was
proof that the
lying.
investigation was tainted? You just
Hey,
pull
if you keep
shut
wa-
your
hey,
ass.
hey, hey,
No, the investigation
Tyler,
found war crimes. Our
stop talking
our
over each other.
spokesman lied.
Take turns.
If Gorse was speaking, please.
And
No,
then
I
went silent.
said
Oh,
my
you were
piece.
saying, Gorp, sorry.
The investigations found that there were likely war crimes committed. Our I believe it was the State Department spokesman. He went out and said, in contrary to what our investigations found, he said there's nothing.
The
The people
investigation,
who
I've read
did
it, I cited it in my
investigations then came
document
out
as
and said,
well,
"What the
found
fuck are you
no
talking about?
proof
You're
of
wrong."
war
All right,
crimes.
so I pulled. Well, first of all, just blindly trusting our United States' rulings is kind of insane to begin
Yeah,
with.
everyone's
I mean,
lying.
the
It contradicts you.
No, well, no. I mean, they kind of are. The FBI literally just said
Everyone's lying, you
2
know.
weeks ago that the Epstein files didn't exist. So, like, no, and that's like
They said
the
a
Bureau
list
of
didn't
Investigation.
You're naive
You know
to
what I
think
mean?
that they don't have the
It's very-
ability to lie. Like,
Yeah, that's very naive. But first of
You
all,
have
I
to
did look up the
prove that
Geneva
it's
Conventions.
happening.
Epstein files are
Hold on,
anti-Semitic.
hey, real quick. I looked up the Geneva Conventions, and there's a lot here. So I'm just going to touch on some important things. You cannot attack wounded and sick soldiers, medical personnel, facilities, and equipment, wounded and sick civilian support personnel accompanying the armed forces, military chaplains, or civilians who are spontaneously taking up arms to repel an invasion. That is part of the Geneva Conventions, and that is part of what the U.S. military follows in wartime. And I had to learn that because, again, I was in the military, but it might not say that on your document.
in my eyes, that means October 7th is justified.
Okay, so
October
real quick
7th.
question for the for everybody
To
from
repel an
chat,
invasion.
from Chief, who, if he's awake, could just get in here and ask the fucking questions. But I appreciate him coming from chat. Real quick, so apparently Hamas was using, or this is according to Amnesty International, who I believe is a reasonably reliable source, that Hamas was using hospitals as torture facilities. Does anybody know anything more about this? Like, is this
First I'm hearing of it.
Can I just say?
Can
I just say?
The quote from Amnesty? The quote from Amnesty is some of the prisoners that were taken hostage by Hamas during this conflict. I'm adding on right now to the quote. The prisoners that were taken into custody by Hamas for being collaborators. Some were interrogated and tortured or otherwise ill-treated in a disused outpatient clinic within the grounds of Gaza City's main Al-Shifa hospital, and this is at some point during this conflict.
I think it was before the conflict. I think you're right, but I think it was. I think
The Amnesty article is during the conflict. Okay, so
I think that makes sense, but I also got to say that even still, if they were doing that, if these were what's the word that you just used? If basically they were working with Israel, if they were for them and these were hostages by Hamas, why would you blow up the hospital then? That part still doesn't make sense.
Because they wanted to blow up Palestinian people.
Okay, so
is the answer.
Well, also was systematic campaign of blowing up
according to Matthew Philip Gay, an expert in international humanitarian law, a hospital can be a viable military target if the civilian hospital is being used for harmful acts to the enemy in terms of staging military events, that it can be deemed a legal target. This is an expert on UN rules of war, saying exactly what I said.
Finding a few weapons in the hospital, is that enough evidence?
Of course Israel said it. They want to justify it, dude.
But real quick, I'm sorry, Casey. I got to call bullshit because if the Amnesty International says that it was being used as a torture facility, that's not the same as just finding a couple of guns in there.
No,
So
Amnesty
again,
said that there was an instance of like it wasn't even it was on the grounds of a hospital, right?
And also,
that enemy combatants were being attacked and tortured, and that is by the definition that Tyler just outlined, makes it a permissible target. Correct.
Well, hold on.
That doesn't make all hospitals permissible.
I'm not saying this is ethical or not. We're talking about whether it's legal.
If you're bombing a
based on-
hospital,
I also think it's more strict than that.
I agree.
It
And
needs to be like an actual base, like an actual military base with operations.
What was the wording again, Tyler?
It is.
Acts
It is, yeah.
harmful to the enemy. That's what it's.
Is this a quote from that person, or is this a quote from the actual Geneva Convention? Oh, a person. It's an opinion.
I thought you were saying
It's an
this was
opinion.
actually part of like this was
It's an opinion.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was an appeal to authority.
Yeah, an appeal to authority.
It's an
Thank you.
appeal to authority of an expert that works around these laws
Oh.
versus
That's
an
fine.
appeal to authority of a
Sure.
guy that says I was
Yeah.
in the military for a couple of years.
I'm not saying it's not a
I'm gonna
valid
go with the
authority. I'm
expert
just
that works.
If you had if you had good evidence that
Here.
before you, and you bombed the
We can do a
hospital
couple
and you
more
had good
articles.
evidence, you just have to show the evidence. And Israel never does it. Sometimes
And
they
they
do,
didn't
and
do
they
it.
just lie.
But
The only evidence that
evidence
shows
is that?
Hamas existing and purple guns.
Yeah,
being
get that
that is
fucking grin off
literally
your
all the
face.
evidence.
You're talking about a couple guns found in a room.
He didn't bother looking.
What?
Well, you know, hey, here
What's the
we can
evidence?
get further. Hey, we can
Take turns,
guys,
you know, horseradish. You can force
Guys-
people to take turns.
we can get further into the conventions if you want, and you know, just say that you know, all parties in a conflict must search for and collect the wounded and sick, especially after a battle, and provide the information concerning them to the Central Tracing and Protection Agency of the International Committee of the Red Cross, which has not been done. That's Article 15 and 16. We can keep going though. There are
And
many
that's from
things.
what you're saying? That's from the Geneva Convention.
The Geneva Conventions, that's the second Geneva Convention to be specific. We can keep going because there are many in here saying that, outlining
Well,
why
real quick.
bombing a hospital is not okay.
But-
Civilians are to be protected from murder, torture, or brutality and from discrimination
Before
on
we
the
do
basis
that-
of race, nationality, religion, or political opinion. Articles 13 and 32. Like, it
Yep,
just
hold
keeps
on,
going,
hold on,
dude.
hold on, boy. Then,
That's
so,
like what
so
I
again,
heard. That's
I
like
want to
what I've
make sure that I
understood.
understand why we're doing this. Is there anybody here who thinks that war
not
crimes
legal.
are not being committed?
No, I'm not talking about the morality.
Hold on, boy.
of the
Vane.
crime.
Hold on. I'm
Only
asking
the
everybody
retard in the
else,
corner thinks that.
Depends on the question, like as policy by the state or incidental.
or just in general. Do you believe that war crimes are being committed? First,
I'm raising my hand.
right?
War
Okay, I
crimes
see
are
your
not
hand.
being
Hold on.
committed. I think I'm the only person saying that.
Okay.
I do believe
Everybody.
Yeah, it's just the retard in the corner.
That according to the actual laws, the Geneva Convention, et cetera, again, the Geneva Convention, the ICC, like the ICC, we all know that the ICC has found that war crimes have been committed. Is there anybody who disagrees with that? Just Tyler?
They've
They
alleged.
have
They
found
haven't
they have
alleged.
found enough to
There's
bring
only
them
been
to
one
court.
investigation.
Question for one man then. What articles were you referencing from the Geneva Convention?
That was 1 and 2. I
Those
have
are
not made
both
it
the
to-
articles that Israel has not ratified.
I mean, that's fine. We're not talking about legality. We're talking about morality.
Why are you bringing
No,
up
we weren't specifically talking about legality.
Oh, okay. Excuse me then.
War crimes, yeah, legality.
Oh, okay. No, never mind.
We
Back onto
all
it, back
agreed
onto it.
that
Okay, that's
morality.
fine. No, that's
we all
fine.
agreed on the debate that morality was
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're all on the same page about that.
That's fine then. Okay, cool. So then
We are
yeah,
looking for the
I mean,
appropriate terminologies and the appropriate actions that need to be taken immediately. That's
even
where we're
better.
at.
This outlines why it's illegal. I mean, even if they haven't ratified it, these are the fucking Geneva Conventions,
Well,
international
so that's
humanitarian law.
that's
So
that's
again,
the
I
next
get it.
interesting question. Does a nation have to ratify it for it to be a law? Okay.
The Nazis were punished for
And that's
their,
exactly
their
where I was going to
actions,
go. Have there
and
been?
Germany said it was fine.
Have
Yeah, no,
people?
if-
Go ahead.
Well, if a nation
Real quick, if a
associates
country did not sign on to the genocide convention, they can't bring an argument that genocide's being committed. That's like part of the
They
ICC
can't
ruling right now.
accuse, but that doesn't mean they can't be prosecuted for.
Yeah.
Yes, they can be prosecuted for if they sign on to it. Israel did sign on to the genocide convention. That's why they're being prosecuted through
Ah.
No, they,
that one crime.
Okay.
no, they can be
Don't sign
prosecuted
it.
in other ways.
Well, yeah,
Like,
they can't be
individuals
what
can be
the
brought
thing
to
is going right now.
court, or that's because like these things didn't exist when German. You said that. So.
Yeah, the convention was made in response to World War II, obviously.
Okay. So, and with that, how many nations have not signed on to the Geneva Convention in general? And second question, because you're telling me that Israel didn't sign on to those particular aspects, my next question is, are they allowed to pick and choose which parts? Like, I don't know that much about the Geneva Convention, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just kind of
196
ratify
countries, including
whatever
all
they want.
UN member states, have signed on to the Geneva Conventions.
Israel has
Except,
not
I
ratified the
suppose,
first and second
Israel.
rounds.
I'm going off the quick
It's-
AI overview. So
let's not do AI.
Well, yeah, but okay, somebody dig deeper. But Gorps, you said that the only country that has not
well,
ratified
we
all
know
of the
Israel
Geneva Convention
hasn't
is
ratified all of it. That's why I added
Oh.
that.
That's very convenient for them.
every
and their
other
goals.
country has. You said.
I'm reading more right now, but I'm going.
No,
off the quick
okay.
We're not
AI.
gonna
But I just want to make sure that I heard you
Very
correct.
convenient.
Also,
or you
I don't-
know,
I don't-
Only the first
And it
two
is-
articles of the Geneva
Oh my
Convention.
God, I'm
you know,
angry.
if a country doesn't want to ratify those two important articles, then it brings into question why they're associating themselves with the whole document to begin
Okay.
with.
That's a good point, Cosmic.
Okay, I will say it is 100.
Cosmic, just so you know, you're
countries
muted if you're
have
talking to
ratified
us
in
there.
some form.
No,
the
I can
Geneva
hear him.
Conventions.
I
By
heard
the
him.
way, including the Holy See and Palestine, have recognized the Geneva
Testing.
Convention.
Oh,
Sorry,
there
Bo.
you are. I'm sorry.
No problem, bro.
I'm actually gonna head out too, guys. Thank you
Ooh.
so much for having me, horseradish.
Yep. Nope. No worries.
Yeah,
I
and
appreciate
it's
you.
almost-
Palestine!
You were
Another
It's
the
almost
interesting-
2:30 where I am, so I'm also gonna
Another
jump off,
interesting
so-
one.
No worries. The fact
Okay.
is, I've only got about 45
Uh-huh.
minutes left on me anyway. So again, I'm enjoying
Alright.
the conversation as it unfolds, but everybody's welcome to go as you please. I appreciate everybody who participated, and do me a favor, if you don't mind, if you could put something. I guess you're not in the chat, and we're not doing the shared chat, so fucking just tell everybody who you are so they can find you, please. You said you were leaving first, Toka. You first. What's your name?
I am a
Pocahontas? Oh, that's
Tocahontas.
amazing.
I haven't been streaming lately because my work schedule, but I'm here with the panel and Horseradish whenever he does his panel. Usually I like to hop in here and hear what everyone has to say. I love hearing other perspectives and jumping in the chat. So it was my pleasure. I love it.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you so
shout out.
much for Horseradish. I really appreciate it. Thank
We'll see you around. And then you said you were taking off as well, Ancom?
Yep. So I'm Incom Psycom. I don't really do any streaming, but you can find me on Discord under the same name, occasionally on Blue Sky, and I just hang around in a lot of places and like to talk about stuff. So yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate you, man, and you can expect more invites. And then Tyler, you said you got a dip too. Tyler, tell us about yourself. Give us your because you stream.
Yeah, average debate enjoyer. I was off for a few months. I quit doing Twitch. I just moved over to YouTube fresh, starting from fresh. I got 6 viewers right now, so we're really starting from the ground up here.
Text is tough on YouTube. I swear it's tough.
Yeah, it's just a transition. Everybody
I'm
I
jealous.
stream with is doing it, so I had to move
Crazy.
over too. I'm just here for fun. I like debate and politics. It's mostly policy related. I watch a lot of congressional hearings and things like that. I don't know anything about culture. I don't know anything about religion. 90% 90% of those debates I'm just glazed over.
Or
But
the
when we get
military.
into- you know, when we get into like the border, some Senate stuff and things like that. Like, I mean, once we start getting into policy, as you can see, the guy that was challenging me on law eventually said, "I didn't even know we were talking about the law" when I posted 5 citations proving him wrong in the side chat. So, but average
I mean,
debate enjoyer
you
on
didn't-
Twitter
you didn't-
and YouTube.
he's not talking to you,
and,
boy, then.
if you want to see me come
Okay.
spank some more people like I spanked this retard who was in the military, go give me a visit. Thanks for inviting me.
All right.